Hey guys, howdy, I hope you are fine. As you seen in the thumbnail, in this video we are gonna see what if Naruto got demon-possessed. I request you to check the author of this fanfic and show some love and support. Name of the story is Uindo Benshibai. Lady Amaya, do check it out. All details in description, and if you want next part of this series, please leave a like and comment 5 blue emoji. Let's get into the video. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto X Daenerys Targaryen uncensored spicy version. Link in description. Human blood, demon soul. Her body is slowly deteriorating. Why hasn't she been able to heal herself? It has more to do with her blood. Setsuko has never been able to recover blood faster than any human. But Setsuko-chan is gonna better, right? I mean, you can fix it, Tsunade Baba. Can't you? Uzumaki Setsuko is dying. I don't want to lose any more time with you. She just has a bad cough. Naruto, I'm so happy I met you. You and Kakashi have made me human. But Naruto, I'm dying. You're not dying. You promised you'd never leave. You said that you would be here for me. Always. Hinata, why did you follow me? I was worried, and Naruto-kun. She's all I have. She understands me. She's my only family. I swore I would never let anyone hurt her. I didn't want anything to happen to her. I know I got attached quickly, but I never wanted to lose her. Now she's dying, and I can't protect her. What hurts the most is that she chose this. She chose Kakashi over me. And Naruto, she didn't chose Kakashi over you. She chose love over her own safety. Kakashi, why can't I stay? Setsuko stood up. Her once dark green hair was a light lavender, easy to mistake as a light pink. At the tip of her hair, it faded into an extremely dark green. Her lips were a light violet. Setsuko's skin had become a startling white color. Around her hair, down both sides of her neck, down her sides, down the center of her legs, and centered perfectly down her arms to the back of her hands were tiny and thin blue vines. They did not come close to her fingers, though. She held her hands out in front of her as she scanned over her body with silver eyes. Run. This will do, she muttered before she staggered over to a mirror. She seemed to have trouble using her body. She stared at the reflection. Kakashi stared at her in horror. Who are you? The woman turned around to look at him. I thought humans would have died out by now. She made her way over to him. But instead you grow bold, asking my name as though we were equal. You're a demon. Go back to where you came from. Humans are everywhere. Humans rule the world now. Come back after they die. I could not even if I care to, she simply replied. I might have come here for reasons unknown to me, but I will stay. The wind is my only concern. Who are you? The woman laughed. Humans are so naive. I am Bensha. Kakashi shot her a confused look. Speaker. I don't understand. Setsuko is the Bensha. Setsuko. Was that the name of the human I now use? Kakashi felt his eyes harden. Give Setsuko back. Uindo Bensha glared at him. Humans and their emotions. You grieve for this, Setsuko. I do not, nor do I care to understand. Humans do not understand that things die. Bensha muttered before starting to walk away. Kakashi performed a few seals. Yes, things die. Orochimaru stared at Kabuto. You wish to see me, Orochimaru-sama? The body Orochimaru was currently in was covered in bandages. Yes, fine, Setsuko. Her cursed seal has finally completed its purpose. Kabuto nodded before disappearing in the shadows. Kakashi was thrown against the wall by Bensha's hit. His attack had done nothing to her. Kakashi staggered to his feet, ready to fight in vain. But Uindo Bensha was nowhere to be seen. The copycat ninja ran out the door as fast as he could. Tsunade would want to know about this. Kurenai saw Kakashi run past her and quickly followed. Kakashi, what happened? I'll explain once we get there. We need to get Naruto too. He'll want to know about this. Kurenai nodded. You go ahead then. I'll get Hinata and Naruto. Kakashi sped up before disappearing out of sight. Kurenai stopped for a moment, trying to find out where her student was along with Naruto. Kurenai ran down the path Hinata had gone. She found them quickly. It was a sweet sight. Naruto and Hinata were holding each other as if the world was crashing down around them. Hinata seemed to be comforting Naruto. Naruto, Hinata. Kakashi says something big has happened. We need to get to the Hokage. The two nodded before heading there. All three of them put chakra into their jumps and kicks. Soon, they passed the gates and jumped over rooftops. The three stopped only when they reached the Hokage. Bensha sat in a tree. She had just watched a woman run off with two younger children. She said something about a Hokage. Bensha flexed her hand in front of her. This body is weak, she muttered as she stood up with a little trouble. Humans are pathetic. Bensha dropped to the ground. She stared at her body. After a few minutes, she glared up at the sky. I do not understand why you brought me back. She hissed towards the sky before closing her eyes in concentration. Or, Bensha no Yuindo, on Nashijin no Sora to Sabit Jie Debutsu. Ataru Watashi Sono Kenryoku or Motamaru. Ataru Watashi Kenryoku Zuto Meihai Kaizetsu Suru. Ataru Watashi no Me no Geiken. Jio na Karakore Ningen no Yoki. Yurusu Sono Akuriai no Sono Sora Kiru Sotoni Mo Ichido. I, speaker of wind, mistress of air and all its creatures. Grant me the power I seek. Give me power long ago denied. Grant me my former appearance. Free me from this human vessel. Let the demon of sky come forth once more. She waited. Nothing happened. Yuindo Bensha glared at the sky before repeating the words. Or, Bensha no Yuindo, on Nashijin no Sora to Sabit Jie Debutsu. Ataru Watashi Sono Kenryoku or Motamaru. Ataru Watashi Kenryoku Zuto Meihai Kaizetsu Suru. Ataru Watashi no Me no Geiken. Jio na Karakore Ningen no Yoki. Yurusu Sono Akuriai no Sono Sora Kiru Sotoni Mo Ichido. Finally, the wind seemed to pick up. Yuindo Bensha grabbed her dress and ripped it off before the wind pounded against her, changing color as it wrapped around her skin. After a few minutes, Yuindo Bensha stared down at her body. She had dark plum pants. They were skin-tight. She had almost knee-length white boots. She wore a short strapless dress over that. There was a single dull teal strap underneath the dress. It was at an angle as it came out from under the dress and was several inches wide. There were a few belts around her waist. Her arms were covered in long white arm sleeves. Some fabric covered her backhand. It narrowed out as it went to her fingers. Her middle finger was stuck through a small hoop of the fabric. On the back of her hands were 4 rubies surrounding a rhombus-shaped sapphire. A black belt choker was wrapped around her neck. The Yuindo Bensha narrowed her eyes in disgust. Ugh! I had thought that the wind would at the very least grant me a better appearance. This human form is far too confining. Is there something wrong with your appearance, Bensha? She spun around to glare at Kabuto with malice. You call me that as if you were worthy. But you are nothing more than a vile human. Do not speak to me, human. Bensha turned on her heels to walk away. So I take it you do not want to know why you are here? She stopped and slowly turned to look at him. You brought me back? To this human-infested world. Before Kabuto could respond, he was being lifted up off the ground by Bensha. She held him up with one hand in disgust. I will break you for it. I didn't. Kabuto choked out. Then who? Bensha slammed him into the tree without any effort. Kabuto felt his mind drift off into a daze as he tried to recover. Oh, Orochimaru-sama. He wheezed. Bensha stared at him. And what gives him the mind to think he can summon a Bensha no Yuindo? She hissed. Once more she slammed Kabuto into the tree before throwing him off to the side. Go to your master and tell him that I decline. Bensha walked away without another word. So, it appears that this Bensha was the reason for the cursed seal. Tsunade muttered to herself as Kakashi finished telling her and everyone else what had happened. Naruto stared at Kakashi with hope in his eyes. So, Setsuko-chan is still alive? We can save her. Kakashi hesitated, unsure of how to answer. Tsunade stepped in. Naruto, I'm sure that we will if there is a way to save her. She what? Orochimaru yelled. Kabuto mentally winced before speaking quietly. He had an ugly bruise around his neck. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. The Bensha no Yuindo refused. She also doesn't think you were worthy enough to summon her in the first place. Orochimaru glared at no one. Fine. The Bensha no Yuindo will have to deal with me then. Demons. Bensha slammed her fist into a rock beside her. A sneer was across her face. She panted in rage. Damn it! She cursed. Bensha yanked her arm out of the rock and moved ahead with her eyes narrowed in rage. Why am I limited so? She hissed as she made her way through the forest. Creatures ran away from the path she took and stayed away. Naruto. Tsunade trailed off, unsure of how to word her question. Jiraiya looked up at the Hokage. Perhaps it would be best if I bring in her team and explain a few things about Setsuko. Naruto thought for a moment before nodding. Hi. They need to know if we're gonna get her back. Tsunade nodded before calling for messenger. Get Guy, Asuma, and their teams along with Kiba, Sakura, Sasuke, and Shino. Don't forget Shikamaru and Team 28. The messenger nodded before disappearing. I'll go ahead and start to search for her. Naruto glanced at Hinata before go towards the door. I'll go with him, Kakashi told the Hokage. I know what she looks like now and it would only waste time. I already know it. The Hokage hesitated before nodding. If that's the way you want it. Kakashi left with Naruto to find the Yuindo Bensha. Hinata looked at the door before turning back to Tsunade. Hokage-sama, what are they talking about? I'll tell you once everyone gets here. Kakashi leapt from tree to tree. He had uncovered his left eye once they had reached the last place either of them saw her. Naruto was tapping into the Kyuubi's chakra. He was sending it to his feet, nose, ears, and eyes. Finding Setsuko was the most important thing to him. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto yelled as he landed by a tree. Kakashi landed next to him quietly. What did you find? Naruto picked up a discarded red dress. If she tore this off. What is she walking around in? Naruto asked out loud. He narrowed his eyes as he glared at Kakashi. When we find her. Look away. Kakashi sighed and rubbed the back of his head before summoning a small dog. Takashi, I need you to track Setsuko. Kakashi put the dress up to the dog's nose. Some dame you chasin'? Just 'cause she don't want to go out with ya? You make me track her. You stupid mutt. That my cousin. We have to find her. Naruto yelled. Tsunade sighed as she rubbed her forehead. Jiraiya, Kakashi's team minus Naruto and himself, Kurenai's team, Asuma's team, Guy's team, Setsuko's team, and Shikamaru were all there. Even Irika was there. She had thought it was best considering how close he and Naruto were. Sakura looked around, confused. Hokage-sama, why did you call us all here? Tsunade swallowed her feelings. She had to tell them everything. Uzumaki Setsuko. Something has happened to her and I am not entirely sure what it was. I do know that something has taken over her body. Orochimaru apparently summoned it. He had given Setsuko a cursed seal while she was gone and thus she was possessed by this creature. Did that change her appearance? Jang Hoon asked quietly. Tsunade looked at him surprised for a moment before shaking her head. No, she's been like that for 12 years. She sighed as confused looks adorned nearly every single ninja in the room. Setsuko had a demon named Aka Yuki sealed inside of her since birth. In the village she grew up in, from what I was told, she was hated. The people abused her daily. She never knew why until she turned 13. Apparently her seal was not very strong and her soul merged with the demons. It was then that she changed. I'm sure some of you have seen her without the henge. A few nodded while the others shook their heads. She quickly described Setsuko's appearance for those who did not know. What happened when she changed? Ino's curiosity had gotten the best of her. Tsunade grew quiet for a moment. That day was the day she was first reported to Konoha. From what Setsuko has told me, the village attacked her. Hunted her like some wild animal. It was then Setsuko was reported. She had slaughtered the entire village. Not one person was left alive. No one knew exactly who did it or why, until now. What made you think it was Setsuko-chan? Kurenai asked the Hokage. After Kakashi's home was destroyed, I saw the Cloud Nin she had killed. It was like all her other victims. Setsuko had earned the nickname Bloodless Ninja over the years. She had slaughtered her entire village, cutting off any possible blood ties. And none of her victims ever had a drop of blood left. How is that possible? Sakura whispered. Tsunade rubbed her forehead. I'm not sure. All I know is that Setsuko has an enormous amount of chakra in her blood. That chakra allows her to control her blood, making weapons from it or turning it into acid. I don't know why, but she never left one person with their blood still in them. When you learned about this, wouldn't you have Anbu sent after her? Shikamaru asked. I could not. Setsuko had not betrayed the hidden leaf. She was still a loyal member of Konoha. Even after she left for a month? Riki watched the Hokage carefully as she tried to answer his question. If Setsuko had not appeared when she did, I probably would have declared her a missing nin. I did not have enough evidence to support the idea that she abandoned Konoha. It went against her personality. Besides, she was the head of the Uzumaki clan. I have little doubt that Naruto would have left to be with her. But that does not matter now. The creature must be stopped. I want you to find it and bring it back. I might be able to save Setsuko. Bensha let her fingers glide over a rock. She was searching for something. Her eyes scanned over the sky before she called out again. I do not understand. She whispered to the sky. You were not the one who called me. Why did I wake? Were you not the only one to be able to call me? Bensha felt her ears twitch. Someone's coming. She turned around in time to see two ninja land in front of her. It was the man from before and a boy. She stared at the boy for a moment. Naruto, correct. Naruto stared at her. Give me back Setsuko-chan. Yes, it is Naruto. She had fond memories of you. She laughed silently at the two confused looks sent her way. Yes, I do enjoy her memories. Who would have thought a human could be so entertaining? Bensha narrowed her eyes at the two ninja. But, like any other human, she has her limits. Meaning that I am limited. This offends me, she hissed before holding out her hand. She pointed a finger at them and a gust of wind knocked the two to the ground. She slowly walked towards them as she cut her finger with her nail. A spike of blood formed in her hand as she grabbed Kakashi's vest and lifted him up. Her arm was raised up high in the air. Orochimaru moved through the trees quickly. He could sense her. With every step he took she grew closer. Orochimaru smirked wickedly as he ran towards her. He would have the power that belonged to the Bensha no matter what. Bensha felt her hand tremble as she started at the ninja, Kakashi. Her eyes widened before she threw him back to the ground and leapt away. A kunai landed where she had been standing. Bensha glared at the leaf nin who had just arrived. Hinata was helping Naruto up off the ground. Bensha quickly counted the leaf nin. The wind whispered to her that more were coming. She smirked wickedly before a look of fear crossed her face. The Bensha felt her eyes widen in realization towards her fear. She quickly sent a blast of wind towards the ground in front of them, sending up a cloud of dirt. She used their momentary disability to disappear into the trees at an amazing speed. By the time the cloud of dust settled, she was long gone. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya. Do you think we can track her? No, Kakashi answered. Tsunade looked at him. Right now she has the advantage. Bensha has Setsuko's memories. She knows a lot about us and we only know a few things about her. Besides, she had the wind on her side. She'll know we're coming before we're anywhere near her. Not only that, it would appear she has Setsuko's abilities as well. Kakashi muttered before turning back towards the village. We have to train now, to be strong enough to save Setsuko. Bensha leaned against a large tree as she stood on a wide branch. She was clutching her heart and panting with wide eyes. How? She panted. How is this possible? She sank down to her knees. These emotions, she gasped. They are not mine. That's because you are merely renting that body. Bensha looked around wildly for the owner of the voice. A bandaged body landed in front of her. You don't make the rules. Setsuko made them. You can only have control over your actions, not your reactions. They're just like Setsuko's. Bensha swiped at Orochimaru but he easily dodged. Are you the one? The one that tried to summon me? Of course, it would have been useless to try and give Setsuko any normal cursed seal. She had no desire to become stronger. She only wanted to be strong enough to live with her dear Kakashi. Orochimaru snickered. Bensha stood up shaking. What? What are these emotions? I never had them and I do not like them. Orochimaru laughed. Fool. They're fear. You have her fears. And from what I learned, Setsuko has some fears you might find inconvenient. Bensha glared up at him. What are they? Orochimaru smirked as he examined her. Oh, I think I'll leave to find out for yourself. That is, unless you changed your mind about serving me. Bensha stood up as performed a few seals. A silver orb appeared in her hand and she threw it at him. Orochimaru jumped to another tree and barely avoided it. I serve the wind. No one else. Bensha moved her index finger down as if pressing something. A strong wind came down and broke the branch Orochimaru stood on. Bensha quickly left as he fell. Bensha moved through the forest swiftly. The wind whispered in her ear and she changed directions every time it changed. She suddenly stopped. Bensha dropped to the ground on top of a large rock. Her silence carried through the forest. Her mind tried to sort those Setsuko's memories, but to no avail. Bensha leaned forward as she wrapped an arm around her leg. She stared up at the sky. Tell me, must I summon the creatures of air now? She whispered. After a few minutes, the wind blew and Bensha was up and moving in that direction. She let her arms dangle behind her as she ran. After a few minutes, she stopped in a clearing. A team of ANBU looked up at her in shock. Sannin. She cocked her head to the side as she studied them. What can you humans offer me? She attacked after that. Bensha almost stopped when the surge of emotions overwhelmed her system. She pushed back her shock and continued with her assault. She felt her blood boil as she kicked one man in the head, cracking his mask. Her heart sped up as she lifted him up and threw him into one of his companions. Panic rose and flooded her mind. Her moments became wild as she dodged punches and kicks and weapons. Her mind seemed to blur as she grasped a man by his neck and squeezed with all her might in one quick motions. She had moved on to another before the body and head touched the ground. Her breathing quickened as she punched him across the face. She quickly slipped back away from him as several kunai went through him. She landed and launched herself forward without second thought. She rammed into a woman, knocking her to the ground. Bensha punched down into her stomach and caused blood to splatter on her face. Bensha turned to the last. He was performing several seal. She watched as he slammed his hand down into the ground, summoning a large bird. Bensha felt her eyes widen and a cruel smile creep onto her face. She tilted her head to the side and then tilted it to the other side. I see. So I can only summon like that now? Like a mere human. Jang Hoon looked over at his sister. They were in her room. He had been sitting on the bed reading a scroll she had. Sung, what do you think is going to happen? Sung put down the scroll she had been reading and looked over at him. I do not know. Uzumaki-sensei is gone, and she left no instructions on what we should do if she was gone. She muttered to herself. I do not want to go back home. I like it here. Jang Hoon nodded. Hi. It had started to feel like family. Jang Hoon smiled at the thought. Setsuko-san as some kind of childish mom, Kakashi-san as a dad, Naruto-san as maybe a cousin or brother. It was nice, even if all Setsuko-san made was ramen. He laughed silently. Of course, the one time she tried to make rice, she burnt it so bad she ended up throwing out the pot. Sung started to laugh. It was true. One time she had tried to make rice for lunch. Took them a while to get the burnt smell aired out. After a few minutes she stopped laughing. Jang Hoon. You saw her, didn't you? He gave his sister a curious look. Without the henge. Tell me about it. Jang Hoon was quiet. He searched for the right words but found none. Yeah, I saw her. She was pretty, I guess. I didn't get to see her for much more than a few seconds, but I see why Kakashi-san likes her. Sung smiled gently at her brother. Kakashi-sama loved her. Now I think he's real sad. She whispered. He always seemed kind of distant before, but now he's always gone. With Tsunade-sama, trying to find her and bring her back. Sung stared off to the side in a dreamy state. I think it would be nice to be in love. Sung laughed. Of course, not like Uzumaki-sensei. She and Kakashi-sama seemed to be too shy to say anything. I swear, those two were always beating around the bush. I doubt that, if someone didn't push them, they would have told each other. Sung smiled as she reflected the short time she had spent with Setsuko. I miss her, I agree. This strange family we've had. Better than our parents. Naruto hopped off of the frog that had been carrying him around. He had been searching for Setsuko but to no avail. Do you need me anymore? The frog croaked. Naruto looked back at him and slowly shook his head. Hey, who are you looking for? Naruto looked at the ground. What kind of bensha? Naruto blinked in confusion. Well, I think Setsuko was the Uindo bensha. That's the only kind I know. The frog stared at Naruto in shock. Kid, you got a hell of a lot more to deal with than you thought. Naruto looked at the frog in confusion. What are you talking about? The frog sighed before he looked up at Naruto. Listen, kid. I can't say anything. You'll have to find someone strong enough to defend themselves against the Bensha no Uindo. Or at least someone Bensha no Uindo can't do anything to. That thing. That thing doesn't like anything that ain't connected directly to the wind. It likes those that know its past even less. Just knowing puts my life on the line. Bensha tossed the Anbu aside. Even after torturing him, she learned nothing. She had only gained a little knowledge, and that was she had to sign a contract of some sort. She waited for the wind to start up, but it didn't. She sighed before shuffling through Setsuko's memories. This girl defied the wind. I do not understand. She shook her head before looking at the sky. How? How was she still given powers of the wind? Her head snapped up as she heard the wind. Someone was coming. She turned around to see a young man with black hair and blazing red eyes. Black comas whirled around his pupils. His black cloak had flame licking the bottom. Bensha glared at him. The man smirked as Bensha felt something tug at her mind. She heard the wind whispering not to look into his eyes as her mind seemed to drift away. Bensha shook her head free from the daze before looking around. She was in a huge crowd and was being pushed back and forth. She felt her heart speed up and her breath shorten as she tried to fight her way out of the crowd. No! Let go of me! She yelled, but it was in vain. She nearly fell down a few times after being shoved. Bensha looked around frantically. Weak! Her head snapped in the direction of the voice. Kakashi stood in the crowd glaring at her. She felt her heart breaking. How could I ever even look at someone like you? You're a monster who should be sent back to the rock you crawled out from under. Bensha felt panic rise up. Man, I can't believe you are my cousin. Bensha's head snapped over to the boy in front of her. Naruto glared at her. How could I look up to you? Someone as pathetic as you? Please. I've summoned tadpoles better than you. Bensha felt tears welled up in her eyes as she reached out for the boy. Don't you touch him, you monster. She looked over to see Team 28. I can't believe we were being taught by a demon like you. Jang Hoon yelled as he moved in from of Sung to keep her from looking at Bensha. Freaks like you don't deserve to even breath. Ricky yelled. The crowd started to get bigger as she was pushed about. Bensha reached out towards Kakashi, but he turned his back on her. Please, do not leave me. She yelled, but he didn't respond. He merely walked away with Naruto next to him. She called out once again. Reach out towards them, but they didn't answer. No, do not leave me here. I do not know these emotions, please. She looked at Team 28. You must got to tell me these emotions, but they too turned their backs and left. Bensha felt her heart pounding against her chest and her breathing becoming frantic. She pulled her arms close and hugged herself, trying to make herself smaller as if she could disappear. The people increased. The loud roar of their voice flooded her ears. The roar was so loud she couldn't even hear herself think. Bensha felt herself getting lost in the crowd. Please, she whispered as her eyes stared at the ground and she shook. Please help me, someone. These fears are not my own. She whispered before she fell into darkness. Itachi walked over to the unconscious figure on the ground. He easily picked up Bensha and threw her over one shoulder before disappearing into the shadows. Her eyes snapped open as she stood. She was stuck in a cell of some sort. She held her hand out towards the bars and a strong blast of wind knocked them down. Pathetic. She walked out into the dark hallway and waited for a breeze. Tsunade looked over a scroll on her desk. She was trying to figure out what Orochimaru had down with Setsuko. Any luck? She shook her head at Kakashi's question. Kakashi, Jiraiya, and she had been poring over all the forbidden scrolls they could find. Nothing. Finally, she looked up at her door. Naruto burst through and barely missed running into Kakashi and Jiraiya. Bachan! He yelled with hope in his eyes. Did you find something? Kakashi asked. Hi. I was with a toad. Looking for Setsuko. Did you find her? Tsunade asked. Naruto shook his head. No, but the toad asked who I was looking for and I told him. When I told him that demon's name, he freaked out. He said she only liked things related to wind and she didn't like those who knew her past. He said that I would have to find someone Bensha can't do anything to. Jiraiya sighed. Naruto, I don't think that helps. Who would know about Bensha? Not even the forbidden scrolls mention it. Jiraiya muttered. Tsunade was deep in thought as she tried to use the new information. Are you sure? Naruto whined. We've looked over all the scrolls. Nothing. Kakashi answered quietly. No, we haven't. Tsunade yelled. The forbidden scroll of the Uzumaki. Bensha sent a blast of wind towards him. This time she made sure not to look him in the eye. It was almost impossible, so she ended up closing her eyes and listening to the wind. Wherever it told her to attack, she attacked. So the mighty Bensha is here at last? She knew that voice. It was the same as the one that tried to summon her. Bensha leapt away from the man with strange eyes and opened her eyes in the direction of Orochimaru. You upset the plans the wind had set out. You endanger the life of a Uindo Bensha. And once more, you believe you have the right to summon me. That you matter so? It offends me. Bensha held out her hand only for it to be caught by Itachi. Orochimaru is part of the Akatsuki. He has brought you back for a reason. To serve the Akatsuki. Bensha tried to close her eyes, but she felt her body slowly being taken over. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw her own shadow being connected with another. I am Bensha. I do not answer to anyone. I only answer to the wind. So, where are the scrolls? Kakashi asked. Naruto fidgeted. Setsuko said something about locking them up. She said Kyuubi endangered the scrolls and village. Naruto muttered. Tsunade shook her head and sighed. Do you know where she kept them? Naruto only shrugged. Kakashi closed his eyes in thought while Jiraiya yelled at Naruto for not noticing things better. Tsunade grumbled about Setsuko being paranoid while Naruto started to insult Jiraiya. Kakashi felt his eyebrow twitch. There was a crashing sound from Tsunade throwing a paperweight at Jiraiya and Naruto. The two began to argue with Tsunade. Another twitch. Naruto started to yell about pervert sensei. Jiraiya yelled about brats who didn't know a thing about good writing. Another twitch. Tsunade yelled about staying away from the bathhouse. Another. Jiraiya yelled about gambling. Will you shut up? Kakashi screamed. I'm trying to think. A dead silence followed. Kakashi opened his eyes and looked at the scene before him. Naruto had been waving his arms about frantically. Jiraiya had just ducked from flying paperweights. Tsunade had been rolling up her sleeve as she had marched towards the two. All three stared at him. Sorry, he muttered before he went back to thinking. Orochimaru, why should we allow this weakling to join us? They were talking about her. 9 of them. She didn't bother to look at him. Merely glare ahead. She is the Uindo Bensha. She is weak. Each Uindo Bensha had been weak-willed and foolish. They follow the wind without a second thought of the effects. Their power is limited and never have they lived long. She is useless. She felt a vain pulse in her forehead. Silence! Bensha screamed. Humans shall never understand the wind. They are weak and petty. The wind is something beyond you. You will never know the wind. It is a right only for the Uindo Bensha. I've seen thousands of humans try to fight the wind. All destroyed. Humans are fragile. Both physically and mentally. They can never handle the power given by the wind. Kakashi pulled up the mattress and looked underneath it. After a few minutes of searching, he let it drop. His Sharingan eye blazed as he scanned the walls. His only idea to where the scrolls might be was somewhere in Setsuko's line of sight. Somewhere she wouldn't let people go near unless there was no other choice. The only place he could think of was her room. She nearly killed him the time he tried to look in her room while they were looking for Naruto. Tsunade had made sure that Jiraiya did not go through her clothes. She herself went through them while Naruto kept an eye on Jiraiya. Kakashi ran a hand through his hair as he sighed. Nothing. He looked over at a mirror on his wall. His face scrunched up in thought. The reflection on the mirror. It was of another mirror's reflection. He looked back to that mirror. It was of another mirror. Kakashi looked at the reflections. They were all of the same thing. Down in the courtyard, the fountain. Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya looked up. His eyes followed Kakashi's before he looked out at the fountain. I'll go see. Tsunade looked up at Kakashi along with Naruto. She caught sight of it before waiting. Jiraiya landed in the courtyard. He made his way over to the fountain and inspected it. After a few minutes, he found a loose stone on the ledge of the fountain. He grasped it and yanked it out, causing the water to let out a blinding light from the sun. The room Kakashi, Tsunade, and Naruto stood in was lit up, causing all three to shield their eyes from the sudden bright light. There's a trunk here, Jiraiya shouted as he pulled out a metal trunk. Then why don't you tell us of the wind? Who you are and why you listen to the wind? Tell you humans? She scoffed. Why? You do not deserve it, but I can do something you so desperately need. Bensha stared at Orochimaru in amusement. A lowly creatures such as yourself can give what I need? I am not human. I do not have these wants and desires. But you do. Orochimaru countered with a smirk. And in exchange I want to know your history, and you must swear allegiance to Akatsuki. You dare presume you have the right to even know what wisdom I hold? Bensha glared. In my finger I hold more power than you humans could ever gain. Orochimaru smirked once more. Yes, that might be true. But you aren't at full power. How dare you? It's true. The great Bensha has a weakness only I can stop. Fear. Bensha stared at him. I can make it go away. All I ask for is a little bit of knowledge and your allegiance. I'm not saying you are a part of Akatsuki. You will just help us out from time to time. That is all. And you won't have to fear. Setsuko's fears will never bother you. You would return me to the way I once was? Only mentally. I can't remove any of the limits the body has given you. Bensha narrowed her eyes. Then what good are you? These emotions are not my only limit. I cannot even summon a creature of the sky, she yelled. Orochimaru smirked. I can teach you how to summon. And what will that cost? Just a few missions here and there. Kakashi opened a scroll as did the others. They scanned through their scrolls to try and find some answers. Kyuso, Naruto yelled. Tsunade looked over at him. What's wrong? She sighed. I can't read this. Naruto yelled. It's her journal. Jiraiya was sitting next to Naruto in the blink of an eye. I'll read it. He volunteered himself. Tsunade hit him in the arm before taking the scroll. She read it as Jiraiya laid on the ground, nursing his nearly broken arm. This isn't her journal. Someone else's. Maybe her mother. How can you tell? Kakashi asked her as he looked over her shoulder. Says she's pregnant. The date looks around the right time. Tsunade began to read out loud. Tashiko-sama was right. Her ability to predict the future and see into the past is unparalleled. She had told me that this child will be only one of the children born to use the full extent of our blood limit. The ability to absorb demons into ourselves. She will be the first. The other should be born 13 years later to my sister, Fumiko. I wanted to name my child something special to me, but Tashiko-sama told me that I could not. Her words still ring in my ears. Hisako, this child is not to be yours. You will not raise her. Her name will be chosen by those who hate her. Her name will be Setsuko, child of the seasons. She will be born when the summer dies and the fall begins. It is the fall that will begin her blood limit, and she shall fall farther than any Uzumaki has. She will be beyond the grasp of the Uzumaki. I wish that Tashiko-sama is wrong for once. Tashiko-sama cannot be right always. Can she? But then again, it is her word alone that allows my sister and I to be in the main family. Neither one of us have been able to properly use even the lowest of ninja skills, let alone our own family jutsu. Tashiko-sama says that is because our children will be able to use the family jutsu, and that their ability to use it will make up for our own blunders. I'm sorry, but I have to go. Tashiko-sama says that I was only to write this paragraph and then leave with her. She told me was to take me to the birthplace of my child before going to the Celia Mountains where she will wait for something. Tsunade stopped. Well, is there anything else? Jiraiya asked. No. It looks like the last part was ripped out. I've never heard of the Celia Mountains, Naruto yelled. Kakashi bonked him on the head. Of course not. The Celia Mountains are holy mountains known only to Miko and high-ranking ninja. It is a place you go to when you are in need of a great deal of spiritual guidance or training. Kakashi explained. Naruto glared at Kakashi. How would you know? Do you think that learning using his Sharingan I was easy? If you hadn't noticed, Kakashi is no Uchiha. Tsunade muttered as she looked over the scroll. She looked back up at the others. I can't go there myself, so a team of ANBU will be sent. No! Naruto yelled. She's my cousin and that lady was important to my aunt. I want to go. I am ruled by these emotions as though I was a mere human. I want them gone. And I want my powers back. I will help you if you can remove the emotions and give me some of my power. Bensha whispered. But I serve the wind first. I will never go against it. That's not enough. Orochimaru growled. Bensha stared at him. I am Bensha. When I was free my name was enough to make the world quake and bend to my will. My name was all that was needed to know. It was the only thing that mattered. While powerful demons shook as they knelt before me, I began to rule. You humans believe yourselves superior to many things, yet when I was young we called you filth that killed itself. You are insects that die only after they are born. No, insects themselves are better. You are weeds, useless, annoying, impossible to be rid of unless you destroy all of it. You are ugly and serve yourselves. This is why filth was destroyed in my time. Now I am summoned by unworthy filth before it is time for my rebirth. You now call yourselves ninja? That is merely another name for thieves. Ninja stole our skills. Some were pitted by us. They were taught some skills as a form of entertainment. Others were merely fortunate enough to watch our battles. They slowly began to pick up our skills. But the thieves were weak. They know only the useless skills. Now, I tell you this, my power is limitless. While this body does not allow me to use most of my skills, I have more than enough skills to destroy you. Return me to my former state now. She yelled. The wind picked up, knocking over a few items. These emotions, they plague me. Fear, panic, shame, but that emotion that man with the mask caused. I do not know it nor do I wish to know it. She glared at Akatsuki. Naruto, no. I'm sorry, but I just can't let you do so. The Celia Mountains Tsunade was cut off. I'll go with him, Kakashi whispered. If you would allow me to. Setsuko was very important to me. Naruto stared at Kakashi sadly. Kakashi, with Bensha on the loose, I think it would be wise for you and Naruto to stay here. Please, Tsunade-sama. Naruto caught her off guard with the formal attitude. I don't want to lose her. She's the only one like me. I can't lose her to that demon. Even if I'm declared a missing nin, I have to go to those mountains. It might take me a long time to get there, but as long as I can get her back, as long as my cousin comes back, I'll do whatever it takes. Tsunade stared at Naruto with sad eyes before closing them and nodding. Very well, but I can't let you go alone. I want you to take a team with you. There are a few people I think would benefit from the Celia Mountains. Naruto smiled as he nodded. Thank you. Jang Hoon walked down the market street. Setsuko bought only enough food to last a few days at a time. He figured she liked walking around and buying things like a mom or something. His face darkened at the thought of parents. He looked up when he bumped into someone. Just his luck. It was his parents. Humph. I suppose that training from the demon horde did nothing. His mother hissed. If only you hadn't been such an idiot and listened to my words. Jang Hoon narrowed his eyes as he stared at them. She's not a demon or a whore. His father laughed. Yes, and I suppose you are a good ninja. Before Jang Hoon could respond, his father continued. But I don't want to talk about anything so vile right now. We'll be eating soon. Just tell Sungchan that we want her home. The two adults brushed past him. Jang Hoon clenched his fist in anger. Shermata! Damn it! If Uzumaki-sensei was here, she would hit me for letting them walk off like that. I couldn't even defend her name. Am I so bad that I can't even protect a name? No, I can't let them get to me. I will find Uzumaki-sensei and then she will teach me to be a great ninja. Jang Hoon relaxed slightly. If I can be anything like her, I'll be a great ninja. She took down so many ninja. After all the ANBU she has beaten, she has to be great. Once I'm a great ninja, Sung, and I won't have to worry about them anymore. Tashiko intelligent child, Fumiko child of the book, Hisako long-awaited child. Kakashi stood silently next to Naruto. Tsunade sat in her desk in front of the two, trying to think up a team with people good enough to get the Celia Mountains who she could send off on a mission. They were still rebuilding from Orochimaru's last attack, making all the Leaf Nin take on extra missions. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Guy was panting as he held the door open. I have heard that the lovely gem in the rough, the head of the Uzumaki clan, has fallen into tragic times. I have also heard that my eternal rival is going to try and save her. Honorable Hokage, you must allow the green beast of Konoha to go with him. I will take my team also. Hokage blinked a few times as Naruto and Kakashi sweat dropped. Well, I do need high-ranking ninja to go. But still, 2 jounin and 4 genin. Not enough. Don't you mean 6 genin? Sasuke asked as he stepped through the door with Sakura. Kakashi is our sensei. Besides, you think I'd let the dobe get a chance to learn something important without me? A blonde grabbed onto Sasuke's arm. Wherever Sasuke-kun goes, I go. Ino yelled. I'm not letting Forehead Girl get the advantage. Asuma shook his head at his student's actions. She's gonna drag us along anyway, so Team 8 is available if you need us. Add Team 9, Kurenai said as she passed the others in crowd to get to the front. Setsuko is my friend. And a damn good one. Besides, she's the only other woman teacher there is. She is not going to leave me alone with these guys. Hinata glanced at Naruto before blushing as she stared at the ground. Tsunade stared at everyone blankly for a moment. So, for Jounin, 12 genin. That might be enough. Make it 15. Jang Hoon said as he made his way through the small crowd. Setsuko-sensei opened her home to us when we needed it. And she beat up Ricky. There's no way I'll let her go now. Yeah. There's no way I'd let her leave us behind again. Sung yelled. Ricky rolled his eyes. She's the only decent sensei we've been given after all this time. Tsunade smiled. I think I have a right to say this since Setsuko can't. I've never been so proud. Benefit. That's why she was doing this. For her benefit. Bensha knew that the world had changed drastically. But every time she tried to understand it from Setsuko's memories, she felt dissatisfied. The memories left her confused. Most things were a blur. She knew who to use some things in the modern world now, but still, Setsuko did not interact with the modern world much. She knew barely enough to get by. Her life had been isolated and distant. She was rarely in town and knew next to nothing about current events. They were of little use to her. Human. How much longer until I am able to summon? Orochimaru glanced at her as he moved through the trees. Bensha used little effort to keep up with him, and she was in her own little world of thought. It irritated Orochimaru that she could be so evenly matched right now, and she didn't even have the ability to use her more powerful skills. She was limited greatly, at least from what she said, and still she would be an even match for him. But then again, this was an ancient demon. Once we reach my current base of operations, I'll start teaching you some of the basic jutsu you'll need for this world. Bensha repressed a grimace as she moved. She had no more skill than a mere demon child at this point, and it irritated her. Naruto sat on his backpack. He was by the gates waiting for everyone else to show up. Kakashi was in a tree, planning out the journey. Sakura, Ino, and Sasuke had just arrived. Jang Hoon, Sung, and Ricky were quietly waiting for everyone else by a store. Sung was playing tic-tac-toe with Ricky while Jang-hoon watched for everyone else. And Naruto-kun. Naruto looked over at Hinata. Yeah, Hinata? She poked her fingers together as she blushed. I hope that when we get Setsuko-san back, that maybe things will settle down for a while. Naruto nodded. Hi. Things have been so tense. Hinata smiled. It seems that things never get to be peaceful for long. Naruto sighed. Yup. It can be a real pain. Naruto thought for a moment. You stutter a lot. Hinata blinked in surprise and looked away embarrassed. When you came and told me about Setsuko-chan, and when before she died while we were alone, you didn't stutter. She glanced at him through the corner of her eye. You're kinda quiet. That's okay, I guess, but you shouldn't stutter. Naruto gave her his famous fox grin. People who have some serious power don't need to stutter. Hinata stared at him in awe. You think I have power? Naruto grinned as he nodded. Hi. You can cut off chakra flow by touching someone. And you can see through things. I bet you can even do that fancy spinning trick Niji did in the Chunin exam. Hinata blushed at the statement. Ano, I can't really do that. Naruto stared at her through squinted eyes. Nanny? Naruto yelled as Niji appeared beside him. It's true. Hinata does not possess the power necessary for the Ka-dash. Shut up. Hinata can do whatever she wants. She's good enough too. Why do you think that she's coming with us? Hinata was bright red. Bensha looked around the village Orochimaru had stopped in. What is the meaning of this? Orochimaru ignored her as he walked further into the village. A few ninja came up to him and gave their reports. After a moment they left. Bensha felt her temper rise. Will this be the way of things? Orochimaru looked back at her confused. I was once king of this world, and now I reduced to this. I was never confined to a single world. I would walk 7 worlds at once. But now I am but prey to those worlds. Bensha glared at Orochimaru. You summon me too early. When the wind calls, I will answer. You must teach me how to call for the wind. Why are you so concerned for the wind? Orochimaru demanded. I serve the wind, but the wind serves me. I call it, yet it calls me. I am the wind, and the wind is its own entity. I listen to the wind, yet I cannot listen. I speak, but I do not speak. I am part of the wind, but I am not. I am connected to it, and I am not connected. The wind is my power, and I am the wind's power. I control it, and it controls me. It is my soul, but I have a soul of my own. That is the way things are. They have always been that way. The wind and I are the same but different. You speak in riddles. Orochimaru growled. I speak the truth. It is what I am. Yet humans will never fully understand it. You cannot. It is beyond you. Now teach me how to use this body. Orochimaru smirked. Very well. You know the price. Kakashi was in front. He was the only one in the group that knew the way. They were leaping from tree to tree with chakra enhancing their jumps. It was the only way they would get there without too much trouble. Guy caught up with Kakashi. Kakashi. These Celia Mountains. What are they? Kakashi sighed. It is better to wait until we rest. Besides, I want to cover as much ground today as we can. At this rate, it will be a week and we all need to train. This Bensha was able to deflect my attacks without even looking at me. She's stronger than us, and I don't want to have to fight her unless I know that I will be able to do some damage. Guy nodded. Yes, this Bensha seems to be a great danger than Orochimaru. Let's just hope she doesn't get any better. Bensha kicked the Jounin out of the way without even looking at him. Her foot slowly lowered itself back to the ground. I do not understand how hitting filth with help me. Is you small mind so foolish as to think that I am bound to the same ideals as humans? She demanded. Orochimaru smirked. No. I know that there is no way I can get you stronger other than teaching you human techniques for your demon powers. However, I noticed that you were still having trouble with Setsuko's body. Bensha narrowed her eyes. It is constricting. I do not like it. However, I am fully capable of using it now. This body seems to follow the orders I bestow upon it. Orochimaru nodded. Good. I'll teach you those jutsu you want and remove the emotions now. Bensha stared at him. If anything should happen to me, you will die by the wind. Sasuke glared at Kakashi in shock. Nanny? Naruto yelled. Kakashi sighed and rubbed his forehead. We have to learn the basics all over again. He repeated more slowly. Why? Naruto demanded. Kakashi had woken all of them up early and told them that they needed to go over the basics again. The other Jounin and Jang-hoon agreed with him, so they were all going to take their teams and reteach them. Naruto, you know a few good jutsu but no basics. You need to have a good foundation to build on later. Sakura, you have a great knowledge about any jutsu there is, and you are good at genjutsu and have excellent chakra control. But you only can perform a few basics and your chakra is low. You need to build up your strength, stamina, and chakra levels so you can perform higher level jutsu. Sasuke, you have a good basics and basic jutsu, but you never bother with your teammates. Do you even know where Naruto lives now? Sasuke, lose your arrogance and become part of this team. You'll never make it on this mission as you are now. Sasuke glared at Kakashi, who merely looked back to the other two. Naruto, Sakura, I want you to practice some taijutsu with me. I will show you the basics and you must master them before doing anything else. Demo. We have to get the Celia Mountains. Naruto argued. Kakashi nodded. That's why I insisted we cover so much ground in a day. That way we can practice along the way and not have to rush. Kakashi turned back to Sasuke. Sasuke, I want you to work too. You won't be able to learn any of the techniques at the Celia Mountains if you are willing to do anything to gain power. Hinata, you need to work on your confidence. You have the ability to do what you want. You're just too shy. I want you to practice taijutsu a little more also. Then you'll be able to get through the mission without a problem. You have the talent. Hiba. Kurenai turned to him. You need to work on teamwork. You too, Shino. Other than that, you will get through this. I want you to work with Hinata on her taijutsu. Kurenai stared at the three genin. Anything else? No one spoke. Good. Now get to work. Asuma stared at his team. This will come back and bite me in the butt later. You need to stop focusing on the useless things in life. Boys, junk foods, and watching clouds. He felt Ino glaring daggers at him. You also need to learn a few more advanced jutsu. All three of you rely on a special jutsu throughout everything. Just build up your stamina and stop goofing off. The mission comes first. You'll be able to learn a few more advanced jutsu once we reach the Celia Mountains. I know you don't need to practice. My team has overcome everything thrown at it and what's more Kakashi cut off guy. Since you have been together a year longer and have had more missions, thus increasing your skills, all you need to do is perfect any weaknesses and not rely so heavily on a few moves. Guy glared at Kakashi before going into a speech. I was about to say that. Now, even though we are eternal rivals, we must not try to show up each other and dash. Guy-sensei, he's gone. Tenten pointed out. Guy shouted at Kakashi's back about besting him once more and that it won't happen again. All right, we have to improve ourselves because Setsuko-sensei isn't here to do so. Jang-hoon told the others. Ricky snorted. Who made you the boss? Jang-hoon sighed. Listen, I don't want to fight. Setsuko-sensei said, before that we need to work on teamwork. We'll do that and help each other the best we can. Sung nodded. Hi. She turned to Ricky. Ricky-kun, we may not like it, but Jang-hoon is best for being the leader while Setsuko-sensei is gone. Mom and Pop always made him study. He has the best knowledge out of us three. Ricky stared at her before sighing. Fine. Only until Setsuko-sensei is back. Jang-hoon nodded. Good. Now let's work on our teamwork and skills. Why must I learn these foolish tricks? Bensha demanded. Kabuto sighed. Or dash. If you merely repeat the snake's words, I will rip you open to see if you are indeed a puppet. Kabuto stared at Bensha. She had been getting more and more violent. You agreed to learning to use your powers again, correct? My powers. My powers are beyond you humans. I am here only because the wind has led me here. She stepped up to him and stared into his eyes. No other reason. Bensha hissed as Kabuto backed away. The snake will watch his back. Because of him, I am now stuck in a shell of my former glory. My powers overwhelm the shell, ripping at the very seams of its existence. Should I use my full power, the body would not last even a fraction of a second. So my powers are locked away by the wind to keep the current Uindo Bensha safe. But I have more than enough power to tear you limb from limb without bothering to look at you. I want to know how to bring the creatures of air. She grabbed Kabuto by the collar and lifted him off the air. I do not want to bother with the snakes he uses. If he cannot give me the secret to summon from air, not ground, then he is of no use to me. I can overcome these fears. I am Bensha. That is all there is to it. Now, if he does not tell me how to summon the air, not snakes, then I will kill him. Bensha threw Kabuto to the side. Go tell your master that I will not be denied longer. He has pushed me to the extent of my patience. Gomen, demo. She glared at him. He is busy. I can teach you the hand seals to summon birds, but you have to sign a contract with them. Bensha smirked. I see. Well, show me this contract and I will sign it. Kabuto nodded. Kakashi dodged a kick from Naruto. You're too slow and sloppy. Naruto glared at Kakashi. This is stupid. We should be going to the Celia Mountains instead of this. Naruto, Sakura is better than you in the basics at the moment. You have to do this in order to learn more jutsu. Naruto only glared as Kakashi sighed. If you don't improve, then Bensha can't be beaten. It is more powerful than us. Kakashi dropped his voice so other wouldn't hear. Right now, you have no chance of get Setsuko back, even with the Kyuubi's help. You're the only one with enough raw power to take on Bensha, but because you don't have a good foundation, she destroy you no matter how much of the Kyuubi you use. Naruto nodded. Fine. I won't let Bensha have my cousin. Kakashi nodded. Good. At the Celia Mountains, I'll train you to use the Kyuubi better. Also, there are some jutsu that you'll be able to learn that the others can't. Naruto nodded once more. Okay. Let's work on that taijutsu some more. Bensha pressed a blood-cover hand onto the contract. The name above was Uzumaki Setsuko. Why don't you sign your own name? Kabuto asked as he looked over her shoulder. Bensha glared at him out of the corner of her eye. This body is not mine. The blood is not mine. Therefore, I could not use it if I wrote my name. Bensha's hands moved quickly as if she had been doing them all her life. You learn fast. Kabuto commented as Bensha turned her attention to her hand as it slammed down into the ground. She removed it to see a small bird. What is this? Kabuto bit back a laugh. That is a baby bird. With practice, you should be able to summon the head bird. Bensha knelt down to the bird and picked it up in her hand. I want you to spread the word to every bird. Tell them that Bensha is back. I expect them to understand. If they do not, tell them that the wind has risen once more. Setsuko at Celia. Bensha stood on a branch watching the sky. Servant of Snake. Kabuto glared up at her. She had started calling him that. Is the snake powerful? Of course. He is one of the dash. Quiet. She snapped. I did not ask for his tails. I only asked his strength. You humans must always waste time explaining things. You would explain the color of the sky if you could. Actually, the reason why the sky blue is dash, he was cut off as 4 thin needles landed millimeters away from his feet. Bensha had her arm extended toward him as she stared up at the sky. I do not care for the way humans explain the sky. Demons do not have to fret about such a useless knowledge. The sky is blue. That is all we need to know. She slowly turned her head to look at him. But humans do not know when to leave things alone. In order to make up for what they cannot grasp, they fill their heads with empty knowledge. It is a disgrace to think that I am now confined to the boundaries of weak filth. I wait for the moment when the wind grants me my full power once more. I could make myself a suitable body, even if I am a mere spirit wandering the skies. I will rise again and curse humans. The demons will once more rule, and I will be God King. When that day happens, I will tear the snake apart for summoning me. It was not what the wind wanted. Bensha held her hands out in front of her. These emotions that belong to Setsuko, I want them gone. If the snake cannot take them, I will kill him. Kabuto stared at Bensha before bowing. Gomen, I will take your request to Orochimaru-sama. Bensha looked back to the sky as Kabuto disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto dodged a kick from Kakashi. Kakashi spun around and landed a punch on Naruto, causing him to fall down. Sakura charged him with a fist ready. She punched at him, but he blocked it with his forearm. He quickly grabbed her arm and threw her across the field. Sasuke ran in with his hands moving to side chop him. Kakashi jumped over Sasuke and kicked him from behind, sending the boy into the trees. Good. Your teamwork has improved along with many other skills. The Celia Mountain aren't far from here. Kakashi smiled. Is Team 28 ready, Jang-hoon? Jang-hoon appeared in a whirl of leaves. Hi. Sung and Ricky went to check with the other sensei. They should be here any minute now. The second his words died, there was movement. Everyone else was in the clearing. Kakashi-san, how much longer do we have to go? Sung asked. Kakashi looked up at the sky. I'd say that we have 5 or so more hours till his shows. Guy sent Kakashi a confused look. What are you talking about? The Celia Mountains only show themselves at dusk. We're in the right place, but the mountains will be hidden until dusk. Often, many ninja end up walking right around it, even if they knew the exact place. When it's dusk, then it appears and we should be able to get to the mountain without problem. We should rest until then. A slender hand reached out and cut a small daisy from the grass with a kunai. Soft white hair was in a loose braid that stood out against her soft, creamy skin. Dark violet eyes skimmed over the grass in search of flowers. A plain red-brown sleeveless sundress was a size too big and draped down on the ground as she stood to her full height. A violet ribbon tied around her stomach kept the dress from falling off easily. She turned her flushed face towards the other human in the field. A young girl, no older than 13, sat, meditating. She wore a dark gray tank top that was slightly baggy tucked into black short shorts. A red heavy jacket that only went down to her ribs had the sleeves pushed up to a few centimeters below her elbow. A black leather French Brett SP with a leather bill was somewhat sideways and pulled down so her eyes was blocked from the side at a certain angle. She wore black fingerless gloves with metal plates on the back. Her dirty blonde hair was in braided pigtails on either side of her head. They were piled on the ground and rested close to her black combat boots. She opened her dark green eyes. The girl stood up, revealing her pigtails to reach her knees. Robin, would you like me to make you a flower hat? The girl, Robin, stared at her before smiling. Her skin was a little pale and her upper lip was painted black. The black didn't seem to smear onto her bottom lip. When Tenchi comes, she'll want one. Maybe you could make her one. Hi, that's a good idea. Robin laughed. Thank you. The woman picked a few more flowers as Robin stared into the distance. A group waiting and 3 coming here. Should be here by nightfall. Robin smirked. Now we get to see some real action. She muttered to herself. She sat back down next to her Naginata. Gaara landed on a tree branch and waited for his 2 siblings to catch up with him. The demon had been screaming at him, screaming something about a Bensha and death. He didn't know why he had been pulled this way. He just suddenly had to go somewhere. And somehow he was being pulled in this direction. His sister landed close to him while his brother landed in another tree. It had always been that way. His sister would try to get as close as she could while his brother distanced himself. Not that it mattered. Gaara took off once more when his siblings caught their breath. Kakashi stood in a tree, waiting for the sun to set. What do you need? He asked without turning. He knew who it was already. You really do love Setsuko-chan, don't you? Kakashi turned to Naruto. The fox vessel was sitting next to him on the branch, letting his legs swing beneath him. Hi. Very much. Naruto, I would never hurt her. Don't you know this? Naruto shrugged as he stared at the ground. I dunno. Setsuko-chan. She was very hard to tell. After all she went through. I don't know if she was immune to that kind of pain or not. I saw her get very sad sometimes, but I never saw her cry. I know she felt the same way, but she's shy like that. Kakashi sat down. Why? Why don't talk this all over with Setsuko when she comes back? Naruto nodded. That would be nice. Naruto smiled to himself. When she was around, the glares never hurt so much. Because she understood and I wasn't alone. Naruto, you were never alone. Naruto nodded. Hi, I know. But that's not what I meant. I meant like Gaara and Setsuko. Gaara knew all along and he became so cold it didn't matter to him. Setsuko, though, she understood better than him. Kakashi and Naruto waited in silence for dusk. No one could believe it. Dusk. Mountaina appeared only a second after dusk. Kakashi stared at the mountain in front of him. He had been there before, but it was still amazing. There was snow at the tops. Green covered a large part of the mountains and a few rivers flowed down from them. There were several mountains, but the biggest overpowered the others. "Come on," was all Kakashi needed to whisper before the shinobi became blurs as they raced to and up the mountains. Finally, after what seemed like an hour, they stopped. A woman with white hair had her back turned to them. She was picking flowers. After a few minutes, she looked up and turned to them. "Setsuko," Sung whispered in shock. Jang-hoon moved in front of Sung. Kakashi reached back into his pouch. "No." He saw the kunai in her hand as she turned to them. She raised her hand up. "Bensha must be using henge." Sakura muttered an instant before Kakashi threw a kunai at her. Setsuko stared at the group as the kunai whizzed towards her head. Naginata Japanese polearm similar to a halberd. Halberd, ancient long-handled weapon, which the head had a point and several long, sharp edges, curved or straight, and sometimes additional points. The heads were sometimes of very elaborate form. The kunai flew towards her head. She didn't seem to pay much attention towards it. A questioning look was in her eyes. In an instant it was over. The group looked on in shock as dark red blood ran down pale skin and dripped onto the ground, staining the skin and grass. The green darkened along with a few petals on a flower that blood had dripped onto. Bensha glared at Orochimaru. "Snake, why must I wait? Should the emotions not be gone? Have you lied to me? If so, then I will gladly rip off your head." Orochimaru sighed. "Now Bensha, I haven't. I have to make up an entirely new seal again just for you." Bensha stared at him. "That's not good enough. I want these emotions of hers gone." Orochimaru sighed and nodded. "I know. It will only take me a few more hours to complete the seal. Until then, Kabuto can get you caught up on the current events." Orochimaru left while Bensha stared at Kabuto. "Bensha-san, I know that Setsuko has not had much contact, so I will." He trailed off as Bensha walked away. "I tired of this," she whispered to herself as she walked out into the courtyard to wait. She easily leapt up into a tree to stand on a branch and stared into the sky. Blood further darkened the fabric, if that was even possible. Green eyes blazed in anger as a blade was held in her right hand. Robin threw the kunai in her left hand to the side, with some of her blood being flung with it. Setsuko stared at the group as if the kunai was never thrown. Robin moved into a fighting stance as she drew another blade. Setsuko turned her eyes down to Robin. The girl stood in front of her protectively. "Setsuko-sama," she threw over her shoulder. "Please go to Yoko. I will take care of these fools." Setsuko didn't move. "Please, Setsuko-sama. I cannot allow harm to befall you. It is safer." "Why?" "Tenchi has their weapons. Each ninja checked their weapons only to see them gone. Please understand." A deep, harsh feminine voice came from their left. They turned to see a strange woman with their weapons at her feet. "Robin-chan is not going to let anyone hurt her family. She will not hesitate to kill you. She never has." She wore black silk pants and a very baggy white long-sleeved shirt over it. A long dark green vest was over it, and a gold silk ribbon was tied tightly around her waist. 2 bracelets were around each ankle, and her feet were clad in golden Arabian slippers. Her white hair had been pulled back into a low ponytail with her bangs grown out to her chin. Most swept to her right side of her faces and the rest to her left. Her green eyes did not have the sweet smile her red lips carried, and her eyes were mostly closed, revealing her shiny gray eyeshadow against her lightly tanned skin. "Please, before any more problems, at least let us know your names in case we must carve your gravestones." Her threat was obvious. Hatake Kakashi, Haruno Sakura, Hyuga Niji, Ano, Hyuga H Hinata, HN, Uchiha Sasuke, How troublesome, Nara Shikimaru, Sarutobi Asuma, Yuhi Kurinai, Yamanaka Ino, Aburame Shino, Rock Lee, Uzumaki Naruto, Tenchi and Robin lost all color in their face, and Tenchi was in front of Naruto before anyone else could say their name. You are Uzumaki? Tell me, where did you grow up? Naruto blinked a few times. Konoha? The woman grasped his face firmly in her hand and looked it over. She stared at the whiskers. Setsuko-sama. She is your cousin, correct? On her mother's side? And on your mother's side? Correct. Hi. Naruto stared at Tenchi in confusion. Robin eyed the others before dropping to her knees and bowing. Tenchi released Naruto and bowed. Gomen, I did not realize you were of the Uzumaki clan. I have treated you harshly. Forgive me. Naruto blinked a few times. Who are you? Tenchi smiled at him. Her actions startled them. I am Uzumaki Tenchi. Uzumaki Robin is over there, protecting our cousin. Robin and I are of the branch family, along with the other Uzumaki here except one. Tenchi took Naruto's hands in her own. Come, we have much to talk of. You must be happy to see your cousin, no? Her giant mood swing took everyone off guard. Tenchi, that's enough. Tenchi turned to look at another woman. She was traditional Miko clothing. Her black hair had 3 different lengths. Her bangs were above her eyebrows, some hair in front was to her chin, and the rest of her head was pulled back. Her soft gray eyes stared at Tenchi. You speak too freely. Tenchi glared at the woman. Oi, Yoko-chan, you should not be so harsh. Last I checked, you and I were not on different levels. You have no authority over me, Yoko-chan. Yoko glared at Tenchi before looking back to the shinobi. You come here and endanger Setsuko-sama. What is the meaning of all this? Tenchi smirked. Yoko-chan, you didn't know. Yari. Of course, you were busy being egotistic. This is Uzumaki Naruto, a member of the main family. Robin kept her eyes locked on the group of shinobi. She had long since gotten up from bowing and 2 blades were in her hands, ready to defend Setsuko. Oi, Tenchi, you're too noisy. It does not matter who is with them. They attacked Setsuko-sama. You know what must be done. Robin hissed. Hi. Tashiko-sama told us before how to handle this matter. Yoko remarked coldly. Tenchi stood to her full height and rolled her eyes. I know that. But do the others know that is it time? Yoko shook her head. You need to rush to them and tell them. While you are gone, I will tell them. Tenchi nodded and disappeared in front of all the leaf nin. Yoko stared at them. What is going on? Naruto demanded. Yoko smiled at him sadly. Perhaps it is best that I tell you. Tashiko-sama told the Uzumaki here that a group of nin were to come in search of answers to find Setsuko. If they should attack, then a great test must be held. It was to see if they are indeed worthy to stand on this holy ground. So she has ordered the Uzumaki here to have a tournament when that should happen. Tenchi has gone to inform the other Uzumaki here. My duty is to lead you to the fighting grounds. She looked over to some trees. Garakuen, you and your siblings are also in this tournament. The sand nin dropped to the ground with surprise written across their faces. Yoko turned back to the leaf nin. There are a few exceptions to who will battle in this tournament. The Jounin all have proven themselves by reaching such a level. Naruto-sama, Hinata-sama, Janghun-san, Sung-san, Riki-san. You are all considered worthy. You came here because you cared and Naruto cut her off before she could continue speaking. Nanny, I will fight like everyone else. I can't take shortcuts in order to become the best. Yoko blinked in surprise. Hi. I agree with Naruto-kun. I will fight as well. Hinata quietly told Yoko. I too will fight in this tournament. You can't deny me the chance to have a good fight and prove my skills. Riki smirked. Sung nodded. I will not allow you to leave me behind and have everyone else fight. Janghun shook his head. Guess I'll fight too. Yoko stared at them before nodding. Very well. Please come with me. Robin. She looked towards Robin. Please take Setsuko-sama to a safe area to observe the fights, then come to the fighting grounds. Robin nodded. Hi. Yoko stood in the middle of a fighting arena. She took 2 die and held them out in front of her. The way this tournament works is simple. I roll this dice. She held out a 18-sided die. To see who will fight. After each fight, the dice will change shape and lose a side. That way the same person does not have to fight twice. She held out the other die with 6 sides. This will be rolled to see which Uzumaki will fight. She turned to the 5 people on the other side. I will introduce you so there is no mix-up. Akira, a young boy around the age of 9, stood up from his sitting position. He had a long bow with his arms stuck through it and arrows strapped to his back. His head was shaved and he wore a sleeveless ripped blue shirt and ripped black pants and ninja sandals. His eyes were closed. Yukio, a huge man with dark brown eyes, stepped forward. He wore black pants and a dark gray vest. His dark blonde hair was pulled back into a ponytail and he had a small mustache. Masaru, the man with light blue-gray hair and dark blue eyes, stepped forward. He wore a sleeveless traditional Japanese robe over a long-sleeved shirt and had 2 samurai swords strapped on his back at his waist. Robin stepped forwards with her naginata wrapped in an off-white sheet and leather straps wrapped around that on her back. Tenchi stepped forward and smiled. And myself, Yoko. Yoko turned towards the shinobi. We will begin. Yoko tossed the dice out, letting them roll before stopping. The first match would be between Lee and Tenchi. Yoko walked over to the other Uzumaki. She shot Tenchi a glare as they passed. Tenchi smirked as she reached the center. Oi, Lee? Well, I hope you understand that you can die. Lee grinned. Hi. I am willing to risk my life in order to prove my skills. Tenchi smiled. Humph. I'm beginning to like you, kid. Begin. Yoko yelled out. Tenchi smirked as Lee got into his stance. Tenchi quickly disappeared from sight. Eh? Where did she go? Ino yelled as she looked around. Tenchi has spent most of her life practicing on her speed. Ino whipped around to see Robin. What are you doing over here? Sakura asked as the other genin stared at her. Robin glanced over her shoulder at Setsuko. Setsuko-sama would not allow me to take her away from this battlefield. I am here to protect her. Setsuko wanted to come over here. Also, before Tenchi left to fight, she said it would be a good idea for me to be over here to explain some things in case anyone was lost. She stared at the fight. Lee was being hit from all directions. As I was saying before, Tenchi is faster than anyone I have ever known of. And right now, she is not at her fastest speed. Shikamaru stared at her. How are you so sure? She can't be seen right now. Simple. When Tenchi is at her fastest speed, you could not even see Lee being hit. Damn. She's too fast. Lee cursed as he hit the ground. He stood up quickly as Tenchi appeared in front of him again. Tell me, kid, are you going to try your hardest? Because right now, this is pathetic. I am the one to decide if you are worthy, and right now, you are anything but. Lee sat down and began to take off his weights. Tenchi stared at him. Kid, a few weights aren't going to make that much dash. Tenchi stopped when Lee dropped them, leaving a huge crater. She looked back up at Lee. So, are you going to show me your top speed then? Hi! Lee disappeared from sight and appeared in front of Tenchi. He landed a punch right in her gut. Tenchi flew back several meters and landed on her feet. She spat out a little blood. Humph, I see. Tenchi stood up to her full height while holding her hand against her stomach. She turned to Yoko and smirked. She turned back to Lee. Congratulations, kid. I say you're worthy. Lee stared at her. But the match just started. Tenchi smiled. Kid, you don't get it. It's not to see if you are a good enough fighter. This is a test of your soul. I like you, kid. You've got a good heart. Eh? But that match just started and he was only able to punch her once. Kiba yelled. Robin stared at Tenchi with her arms crossed as Tenchi came to the side with Lee. This isn't a test to see if you are strong enough. Sometimes even the most skilled people are wicked. This tournament is to see who is worthy. Tenchi smiled as she patted Lee on the head. Good job, kid. She turned and smirked at Yoko's glare. Yoko tossed the dice out to the side once more. Hinata and Akira. Hinata timidly stepped forward to face Akira. The boy smiled through closed eyes. Greetings. I hope this will be a good fight. Akira bowed. Yoko yelled begin and Hinata dropped into a fighting stance. Akira readied his bow and aimed. As Hinata charged, he fired. The Hyuga air moved out of the way of the arrow but was cut. Akira jumped up and shot off a few more arrows. Is that all he's gonna do? Lee asked Tenchi. Tenchi shook her head. Our fight was short because I didn't want to really fight and you had a good heart. Akira, on the other hand. He may seem like a polite little boy, but he will never let anyone off easy. Lee nodded. Demo? Why does he have his eyes closed? Tenchi smiled at Lee and patted him on the head again. Simple. Akira is blind. Battle of life. Akira leapt to the other side of the arena. He let 7 arrows fly from his bow. Hinata dodged each one the best she could, but she ended up with an arrow in her thigh. She fell to her knees in pain as she gripped her leg. Why are you fighting? Hinata looked up at Akira as he readied another arrow. Your heart is in bad condition. It cannot take much more damage than it has in the past. Hinata stared at the ground. Give up. You will die. That is how this match will end if you try to fight me. Hinata felt fear wheeled up inside of her. Hinata! Naruto yelled. Don't let this jerk get to you. Come on, you can do it. He cheered. Robin glanced at him. Hinata felt her body calm down somewhat as she gripped the arrow. She yanked it out and stood. Kira frowned. I do not wish to hurt you, yet you persist. Hinata fell back into her stance. Tenchi frowned as she stood next to Lee. She turned to look at him. Akira is right. What happened to her? Lee was quiet for a moment as he watched the fight. During the Chunin exams, Hinata fought with Niji. She would not give up, and that angered Niji. He showed no pity on her and almost killed her. Hinata barely lived after that fight. Her heart was so damaged that she still has coughing fits. At least, that's what Niji told me. Robin's eyes snapped over to Niji. Her eyes filled with anger as she glared at him before turning back to the match. Hinata pulled an arrow from her arm as Akira sighed. Hinata-san, please understand you should not fight. It is dangerous to your health. Hinata shook her head. I will fight. To change myself. Hinata charged forward. Akira leapt up into the air. Hinata reached into her pouch and pulled out several kunai. She threw them at Akira. The young boy bent and twisted in the air. He landed gracefully on the ground, having dodged all the kunai. He reached back and pulled out the last arrow. Hinata had to lean back in order to dodge it. Even then it ripped open her jacket. The heiress patted slightly as she stood up into her stance once more. Akira gently threw his bow to the side. He sighed. Gomen Hinata-san. But now I really will have to hurt you. Akira charged as Hinata did the same. He threw a punch as Hinata tried to kick his feet out from under him. The young boy flipped over her and tried to back kick her. Hinata turned and barely blocked. The two continued to exchange attacks as everyone watched. She is quite good. To force Akira to use hand-to-hand combat. Robin commented quietly. Tenchi nodded. Hi. I worry though, will she be able to stand that kind of pressure? Naruto looked back and forth between the two. Nanny? Robin sighed as Tenchi giggled. Akira uses a long bow. That takes a large amount of strength to use. His blows are very harsh. Akira slammed his fist into her arm. Hinata faltered as the pain surged through her body but quickly knocked his hand to the side and hit his shoulder. Akira let out a yell and leapt away. What was that? He asked. Hinata fell back into her stance. Akira tilted his head to the side. You seem to fight with gentle fist. You are Hyuga. I will not allow myself to make that mistake twice. He charged forward and evaded her kick. Akira rammed his hand into her ribs. Hinata was thrown back and rolled a little after she landed harshly onto the ground. Your heart won't last much longer. Why persist? Hinata forced her body to stand. I want to change myself no matter what. Kira frowned. Even if it kills you? Hi! Hinata charged. Yoko cannot possibly allow this fight to continue. Tenchi muttered. Robin watched the fight quietly. This is Yoko. She is a fool when it comes to these matters. In her eyes, few are worthy to even know of these mountains. Robin watched Hinata cry out as she was kicked up into the air. Akira appeared in front of her and slammed her down into the ground. I hope she survives. After all the warnings he gave her, Akira has already acknowledged her. Akira landed a few feet away from the young girl. Hinata spat out blood as she stood. You will die if I hit you again. Hinata said nothing but charged once again. Akira sighed and readied himself. He launched a punch at Hinata, but to his surprise, she did not stop as it hit her shoulder. The Hyuga seemed to move into the attack and slam her hands into his stomach. Akira fell to the ground in surprise. Hinata raised her hand high and slammed it into his chest. She collapsed after the finishing move. Tenchi quickly appeared beside her and caught her before she hit the ground. Akira laid on the ground and smiled. She is more than worthy, he muttered before standing. Pain filled his side as he stood. Akira turned to Yoko. Yoko-san, I am sorry, but I will not be able to fight again. Hinata-san has more than proven herself. She has rendered me useless for the duration of the tournament. Akira disappeared in a blinding light along with all his arrows and his bow. So be it. Yoko held the die in front of her. The side with Akira's name morphed and the word written on it was free. Whoever wishes to fight can take his place. Robin watched Tenchi carry Hinata to the sidelines. She gently placed her on the ground. How is she? Tenchi smiled. Not too bad. I should be able to help. She held her hand above Hinata's heart. Her heart is the only thing that may cause a problem. Tashiko-sama and I should be able to help. Please, if my name is called while I am gone, fight for me, Robin. Robin nodded before Tenchi disappeared. She turned to Kurenai. You are her sensei, correct? Kurenai nodded. Hi, do not worry, Tenchi is a good doctor. With the help of Tashiko-sama, Hinata-san will be fine. Before Kurenai could respond, Yoko threw the dice out. Robin stared at the dice. Masaru and Shikimaru. The battle between the two quickly began. Masaru took a step forward but froze. Shikimaru had already completed his favorite hand seals. Kakashi turned from the fight with Shikimaru and Masaru. Setsuko stared at him. Tashiko has asked for you. She wishes to talk with you. Kakashi blinked then nodded. Robin watched from the corner of her eyes as Setsuko took Kakashi away from the others. She went back to watching the fight. Shikimaru was starting another set of hand seals. She is gone. Setsuko turned to Kakashi. Nanny. Kakashi looked at her confused. I know what I am. I am not Setsuko. I have no memories of her. Nor do I know how to fight. I am merely dull. Kakashi stared at her. What are you talking about? Setsuko pressed her hand against his face. It was cold. I am not alive as you are. I will always be cold. Because I am only holy mud that took human form. I contain the woman's soul. I am not Setsuko. I do not know her. I will never know her. Once her soul is returned to her body, I will fade. Her hand dropped to her side. Kakashi reached forward and brushed some hair out of her face. Her eyes remained distant and emotionless. I am merely mud. Nothing more. Setsuko turned and started to lead Kakashi to Tashiko once more. Bensha landed on the ground quietly. She stared up at the sky as she stood to her full height. She cocked her head to the side. I can smell his grief from here. I am bothered by this. She looked down and cocked her head to the other side. Has the snake completed the seal? Gomen, Orochimaru-sama has not yet learned to do so. Bensha turned to face Kabuto. I have been humiliated by the snake. He leads me on like some human. When I see him again, I will tear him apart, and then his spine will be my trophy. Bensha turned her back to Kabuto. I don't think Orochimaru-sama will like that idea. Kabuto smirked. Bensha did not turn to him. You make jokes at the expense of your superiors. Next time we met, I will rip out your tongue. Bensha was gone before another word could be said. Masaru landed gracefully away from Shikimaru. The Chunin sighed. Che, I give up. Yoko turned her eyes to him in surprise. He's beyond my skill, and I have almost no chakra left. I wouldn't last another minute against him. Masaru smiled at Shikimaru. Yoko, the boy has my approval. Yoko sighed and nodded. She rolled the dice again. Jang-hoon and Masaru. The man smiled as Jang-hoon stood in front of him. Begin! Yoko yelled. Jang-hoon jumped away and let loose every kunai and shuriken he had. causing a black sky to come crashing towards Masaru. Masaru unsheathed his sword and swung at the metal sky. Most of the weapons were thrown back while Masaru was able to dodge the rest. When he landed on the ground from dodging, a net sprang out from the ground. Masaru dropped back into a stance and slashed the net in half. Guard impact no jutsu. Masaru looked up to see Jang Hoon charging at him. With a smirk, Masaru stuck out with his sheath to Jang Hoon's head. To his surprise, the sheath shattered. Jang Hoon punched him in the face and threw several kunai after the falling form of Masaru. Masaru was able to flip himself in mid-air and land perfectly on his feet. In an instant, he slashed through the kunai coming towards him. Jang Hoon appeared in front of him with a fist coming towards his face. Masaru grabbed his arm and used it to propel himself up into the air. Masaru pulled his sword high above his head and brought it down with him. Jang Hoon lifted his arms up in front of his face and waited. He looked up to Masaru, smiling at him. "You've beaten me." Yoko gritted her teeth in anger before getting the dice out. Setsuko opened a door and waited for Kakashi to enter. Tenchi was caring for Hinata on a bed in the corner of the dim room. An old woman sat in a chair facing a fire. She turned to pale blue eyes to him. Her face was a map of time. "Ah, Kakashi. I've been waiting." Kakashi stared at her. "You are Tashiko-san?" The woman stood to her full height, 4 feet, and nodded. "Hi, Uzumaki Tashiko. I'm nearly 105 years old." Kakashi felt his eyes widen as he stared at her. "I've only held on this long to tell you how to return Setsuko's soul to her body." The woman sat before the fire. Sit. I haven't got all the time in the world." Yukio stared at the sea of bugs behind him before looking at Shino. "You pass." Yoko stared at him in shock. "Nanny? Why Yukio?" Yukio looked at Yoko and smiled. "Bugs trust him enough to risk their lives. That's all I need." Yoko closed her eyes before nodding. "Fine. The next match." Yoko threw the dice. As they were falling to the ground, Yoko caught sight of Robin's glare towards Niji and a quickly looked to Yoko. Yoko didn't need to nod in order to understand. Robin wanted to fight Niji. The Miko twitched her fingers ever so slightly in order to control the dice. As the dice landed, 2 names were clearly shown. Robin and Niji. Yoko stared at Robin as the girl took the center of the arena. Masaru looked over at Yoko. When was the last time Robin desired to fight one person particularly? Yoko did not turn her eyes to him, nor did she respond. Masaru sighed. "Yoko." She nearly broke Yukio's arm when he almost split something on Setsuko. Yoko smiled. "I know. I want to know her reasons. I also want to see if she indeed is worthy of being Keiko's child." Robin pulled the naginata off of her back and grasped a leather strap firmly. She threw the naginata up into the air while holding the leather strap. The naginata unrolled from the sheet and leather in air. Robin caught it without a problem and threw the leather and sheet to the side. Robin dropped into a stance with her weapon as Niji dropped into his. "This fight will not be like the others. I will kill you if the chance presents itself," Robin remarked coldly. Niji glared at her. "You are the one that should worry. You bow down and do as you're told, not caring about yourself at all. You are just like every other branch family." Robin was coming towards him the second Begin left Yoko's mouth. Robin took a swipe with the naginata as Niji aimed a kick towards her legs. Niji was surprised when Robin easily leapt off the ground and kept her movements smooth and quick. "Tenchi." Tashiko turned to Tenchi. "Hi." Tashiko smiled. "Tenchi, I am afraid that you have to prepare everyone's things. I fear my predictions have almost come true." Tenchi had a grim look on her face as she stood. "Hi." Tenchi knelt in front of Tashiko. "Tashiko-sama, thank you for placing your trust in me. I will miss you, Tashiko-chan." Tashiko leaned forward a little as Tenchi kissed her cheek. "Farewell." Tenchi disappeared from sight. Tashiko turned to Setsuko as she stood by the doorway. "You know what to do." Setsuko nodded and left. The old woman turned to Kakashi. "Kakashi, I will tell you exactly how to bring her back. But first, we must talk." Yoko smirked as Robin's movements flowed together, almost as if it was some dance. Niji had narrowly missed losing his head several times. She will kill him if she decides to live up to her nickname, Masaru muttered. Yoko turned her eyes to him. I know. She looked back to Robin to see the girl standing. That's my girl, Yoko whispered. Show them that you will never bow down as some weakling. Niji-chan, your failures in your duties have reached my ears. I will no longer allow you to live. I no longer wish to warm up. Now we fight with everything we have. Robin removed her hat and jacket, throwing them to the side. The girl's jacket was gone, revealing the sleek muscle it hid. She slid into a different stance. Niji glared at her before getting back into his stance. Humph. I wish to see if you are indeed destined to stay under the control of the main family like some dog. Robin's eyes hardened before she charged. She swiped up and twisted around as Niji dodged. She threw out a kick to Niji's feet, causing the boy to leap into the air. Robin wasted no time in jumping up into air with the naginata twirling above her head. She brought it down upon Niji's head quickly before he could move his hands. Robin was thrown back to the ground by Niji's sudden spin and the chakra he used to reflect her. She landed gracefully onto the ground and glared at the boy as he landed. Robin simply moved her neck to the side, popping her neck, and fell back into her stance. I will allow you a gift. For the next 10 minutes I will not fight with chakra. You, however, may use as much as you so desire. But once those minutes are up, I will use chakra. Robin flew forward and blocked a blow to her head with the polearm of the naginata. She spun the weapon, knocking Niji's hand away, allowing her the chance to take another swipe at him. But instead, Robin dug the blade into the ground and used it to pole vault herself into Niji's chest, knocking the boy to the ground several feet away. Robin flipped in the air and swiftly pulled her weapon from the ground without stopping the flow of her movements. The girl crouched low to the ground and took off towards Niji. As he went to hit her, she leaned further down and pushed off the ground with one hand as the other held the naginata close to her body. Her foot went up into his jaw, sending him into the air. You disgrace shinobi. You do not understand the true meaning of your existence. You hid behind meaningless things such as proving yourself to the head family. I will not allow you to continue such disgraces. Robin charged once more as Niji laid on the ground and swung her naginata into the ground in a horizontal movement as if to remove the boy's head. He barely pushed himself forward in time and lost some hairs. Robin back kicked the boy as he was moving behind her, causing him to stumble. She flipped up into the air and started to come at Niji's head as she landed. Niji stood and dodged her foot. He reached out and grabbed her long braids. Robin was kneeling on the ground as he held her away from him. You don't know anything about having the head family destroy your own parents. To be shoved down to serve inferior shinobi after being forced to bear a seal on your forehead because the head family saw fit. Her eyes were hidden in shadows as she lips turned into a smirk. A dry laugh escaped her lips. Niji tightened his grip on her hair. What do you think is so funny? You live your life in a soap opera. I find amusing. I would like to destroy that life you live. So I will share a little story with you. Robin turned her head so he could see her laughing eyes. Bensha leapt off of a large bird. She looked around to see herself in a forest. Bensha-sama, the bird squawked. HN, do you need my services any longer? I will call you back if I need you. Arigato. The large bird disappeared in a puff of smoke. Tell me, what must I do now? She whispered before listening for the wind. Setsuko dropped the vase she was holding as her eyes seemed to stare off into the distance. The wind gentle blew her hair out of her face as she stared off. She turned her whole body to the direction she was looking in. She felt herself be pulled in that direction. I hope you understand. The branch family members Yoko and Robin are not themselves at the moment. Tashiko smiled as she spoke with Kakashi. What do you mean? Tashiko chuckled dryly. I'm sure you noticed how cold they seem, distant and hateful towards outsiders. Right now, Robin's only duty is to protect Setsuko-sama with everything she has. Once given a mission, it is more important than anything else. Also, Robin has good reason to distrust outsiders, to hate them. Only those she deems worthy will she remove her mask. Tashiko sipped some tea before she continued. She had a hard childhood. She might not considered it hard, but still, it has taught her to distrust strangers. What happened to her? Kakashi asked quietly. Tashiko sighed before speaking. Robin smirked at Niji. The Uzumaki clan deals with very deadly jutsu. In order to keep the jutsu limited to those not considered very worthy, one of our ancestors decided to make it so that they stay in the head family. But the branch family was angered that they were kept from their birthrights, so he made another way of limiting the jutsu to the unworthy. The branch family members could each learn one of the highest jutsu that we had. But it had to be the ones from the Death Scrolls. Each jutsu had several stages, the last one the most deadly. There is always a good chance that you can be killed by using the final stage. Now to my time. Robin twisted around with her naginata, aiming for his hands. Niji let go of her hair and jumped away. When he landed, Robin had stood up and faced him. My mother was suicidal. She wanted to die more than anything else. But she could not be allowed death if she could not pass her jutsu to her child. So she quickly found a man and had me. My father left soon after. When I was born, she soon began to set about preparing me for her jutsu. I quickly mastered the first few stages, but the final stage is always what gets a jutsu into the Death Scrolls. For the final stage to be learned, the student must fight their teacher. During the fight, the jutsu is used. Each would prepare for the final stage. To master this, you must be able to attain the final stage and kill your teacher with it. My mother did that. Robin fell back into a fighting stance. I don't remember the fight though. I was only a few years old. She got to commit suicide. I mastered the jutsu. However, due to learning that jutsu at such a young age, I have been limited in use of my ninjutsu and jinjutsu. But I have more than made up for it with my skills with blades and hand-to-hand combat. As a result, I do not mind killing, thus earning me the nickname Emotionless Executioner. She can't trust people. She has only known those of the branch family. So, she will kill to protect those close to her. Because their love is all that she has known. And Robin will never let that go. Tashiko sighed. And Yoko? Yoko is a Miko. She will do what she needs to if she is to protect holy items. To her, the Celia Mountains must never be violated. Once Yoko and Robin leave here, once they experience the outside world and get to know real people, you will see them for who they really are. Loyal to the very end. Please do not judge them until they leave this ground. Their actions are to protect the only things they have ever known. No matter what the cost. Robin felt her hands move into a new position on the naginata. Her weight shifted as she once more entered into a new stance. The girl tilted her head to the side. You have 3 minutes left. After that, I will show you the first stage with great malice. Humph. You're a fool to think you can beat me. Niji dodged a strike from her naginata. Robin followed through with a roundhouse kick. She pushed off of his arms and landed away from him, in a low stance. I do not disgrace my family. I do not violate what my duties are. As a shinobi, you must follow your orders. No matter if you like it or not. You have to be able to decipher between reality and illusions, to chase after the head family with hate in your heart and a blade in your hands in hope that they will acknowledge you and praise you is an illusion-filled daydream. You run from your pain by inflicting it upon those who are there for you to protect. Robin flew forward once more and kicked his arms with each leg as he blocked his head. She landed a little ways away from him. Humans exist to love and grow, yet you stay in the past, crying about what the head family has done to you. You do not move on. You do not understand that as a ninja, you are to protect those weaker than you. Not chase after meaningless things. To do something such as that, you lose the right to be called shinobi. Sasuke unconsciously reached up to the side of his neck. His cursed seal within a ring to hold it back. His mind momentarily drifted back to when Naruto dragged him back to Konoha and the cold glares he had received for the next few months after that. Robin threw her naginata at Niji. The boy easily dodged it. You lost your weapon. You're useless without it. Robin felt her eyes harden. Did I not just tell you of the Death Scrolls? Did your time not just run out? Now is the time that I show no more mercy. I will show you my jutsu. Robin stood up and held her hand in front of her. They quickly moved through a series of seals. There was a bright glow around her hands as a ball of thunder appeared in her hands. I can summon anything, Robin whispered as she shoved her hands into the ball of lightning. Lightning wrapped around her body. Her hair started to stand on end. The electricity gathered around her fists as she shot forward. Niji jumped away as her fist slammed into the ground he was standing on. She used her momentum to flip up into the air and start to throw lightning at Niji. Niji dodged them but not without being shocked and burnt a few times. Robin landed on the ground and pushed herself back up into the air. She began another set of seals. Robin spun in the air as she did the seals and the lightning shot out, wrapping around whatever it touched. Robin flipped around as she fell back to the ground. Congratulations! You will see one of my favorite summons. Robin started a new set of seals. It takes a little more effort to summon them, though. Suddenly Robin stopped. The lightning around her disappeared as she turned to Yoko. Yoko stared at her a moment before her eyes widened. Yoko! We've outstayed our welcome. Tenchi yelled as she appeared beside Yoko. The Miko turned to Tenchi. You felt it too. Tenchi shook her head. Tashiko-sama did. Tenchi turned to the others there. The demon Bensha is coming here. We've no match for her, we have to leave now. Tenchi looked around. Where is Setsuko-sama? Yoko looked at her. She went with Kakashi to see Tashiko-sama. She should have been back by now. She left right after I did. Yoko felt her eyes widen. She spun around to Robin. The young girl already had her jacket and hat back on. She was placing the wrapped-up Naginata onto her back. It takes a great amount energy to summon living creatures. Right now, I don't have the correct amount. Tenchi will have to check. Robin muttered as Tenchi disappeared. She turned to the Leaf Nin and San Nin. Please, excuse our behavior here. We wish to return to Konoha with you. The Celia Mountains will not last much longer. Robin bowed to them. Understand, we acted to protect these mountains. They are the only home we have really known. Setsuko felt the wind tug her towards the east. She started to move in that direction when someone grabbed her and lifted her up. Kakashi held her bridal style as he hurried to the others. Tenchi appeared beside him. Thank God you found her. We have to go. Kakashi interrupted her. I know. Tashiko-sama told me all about it. Tenchi nodded. Good. Then you understand. Bensha had heard it. The wind told her. Someone had spoken about her. Some filth had spoken about her. With no connection to the wind. The second the wind told her, she had created a tornado. She was in the center, float high about the ground, with rage boiling up inside of her. She moved the tornado over land quickly as she went to find the one who talked about her. Her hair was flung wildly about in the wind as her eyes filled with anger. She was getting angrier by the minute. I will show them the true form of hell, she screamed. Robin helped Niji up. Come on, we have to go. Niji glared at her. Why are you helping me? Robin glanced at him as she moved through the fields. I wish to fight you another time. Tenchi appeared beside her, holding Hinata, along with Kakashi and Setsuko. The young boy Hinata had fought was running alongside of them. Akira leapt over a log before he spoke. How long do we have? He asked Robin. The girl did not answer at first. 10 minutes at most. She glanced around. Tashiko-sama? She asked Tenchi. The woman sighed. She knew this would happen. She wants to stay. Robin nodded before leaping up into a tree. Yoko was at the entrance of the Celia Mountains performing seals. She slammed her hand down into the ground, causing a blinding light. What was that? Kakashi asked Tenchi. Yoko had to seal up the holy nature of these mountains. Since these mountains will be destroyed soon, the enormous holy chakra can be stolen by the unworthy. One of the few jutsu she knows. Robin glanced over her shoulder one last time as she left the mountains. Bensha's tornado ripped trees out of the ground. She landed with a light thud and walked towards a one-room house. The tornado was behind her, destroying everything. Bensha kicked open the wooden door. An old woman looked up at her. Bensha, I've been waiting for you, Tashiko muttered as she stood. She performed a jutsu and an invisible force tried to shove Bensha back. The demon merely used her hand to dispel the attack. You speak of me as if worthy, and you try to defeat me, even though you know who I am. The wind tells me you can predict the future and you still attack. Tashiko smiled. Hi. I don't like the thought of dying without a fight. Bensha glared at her before appearing right in front of the old woman. She lifted her up by her throat. And I do not like the idea of humans living. Tashiko felt the hand tighten around her throat as Bensha pulled her hand up into a fist. A young woman stood up and smiled. She was around 13. Her silver hair was chin-length and was angled so the hair went up higher towards the back of her head. Her violet eyes danced in the wind. She wore a long red and black checkered scarf that blew in the wind. She wore black pants that hugged her legs snugly and were lined with red and stopped half a foot from her ankles. She also wore a strapless dress that had a few check spots that came from the bottom left side of her dress and stopped on her stomach. She wore black long sleeves with a silver medal wrapped around half of her lower arm but did not cut into her wrists. She had a red leather strap wrapped around her right thigh a few times. The girl wore no shoes. Gomen Tashiko, she whispered. Arigato for helping. Tashiko felt her eyes widen as Bensha tightened her grip. A vision, after all these years, was the last thought Tashiko had before a crunching noise reached her ears and her world faded away. Setsuko felt Kakashi put her down. The girl turned to him and only stared. Yoko moved over to her and pulled her to the side. They had been running for over an hour. Akira said that Bensha would not come after them and the Branch family seemed to accept his words without hesitation. Robin stood by a tree near Setsuko and Tenchi checked Hinata. The three males took to their own ways. Akira sat down and leaned against a tree to rest. Masaru meditated, and Yukio simply scouted the area. Ino and Sakura stood next to each other, quietly thinking of what had happened before they left. Sasuke sat in a tree and absently placed his hand over his cursed seal as the words Robin spoke during her fight echoed through his mind. Shikamaru and Choji talked amongst themselves. Kurenai helped Tenchi and Kiba petted his dog while Shino stood off to the side in his own world. Tenten sat close to a standing Niji who mulled over his fight. Jang-hoon sat under the tree his sister stood in and Riki grumbled about not fighting. Asuma stood close to Kakashi and the two stood in silence while Naruto stood close to where Setsuko was. Gaara stared at Robin and Temari stared at him. Kankuro stood away from his siblings with his puppet. Lee and Guy were talking about the speed Tenchi displayed. Guy-sensei, how could Tenchi be faster than me? Guy shook his head and sighed. Lee, not only is she older, but she must have spent most of her life on her speed. Lee looked down for a moment before looking back up with determination burning in his eyes. I will beat Tenchi in speed or I will run around Konoha 200 times. Guy smiled and patted him on the back. That's the spirit. Tenchi sneezed a few times. Kurenai looked at her. Is something wrong? Tenchi shook her head. Maybe someone is talking about me. She muttered before going back to Hinata. Asuma glanced at Kakashi. The two stood in silence. So, Asuma broke the silence. What is going on with Setsuko? Kakashi sighed and shrugged. Things seem to get more complicated as we go. From what I learned, the Setsuko with us now carries the soul of Setsuko we know. But at the same time, she's not Setsuko or even human. Asuma stared at Kakashi in confusion. Then what is she? Niji glared at Robin. The girl glanced over to him as the genin marched over to her. Is there something you want? Why did you let me live? You obviously dislike me, you won. Why spare me? Robin closed her eyes as she leaned against the tree. It was not your time. You were able to last over 10 minutes with me. I used the first stage. I consider you a worthy opponent. But you are filled with illusions. In order to beat me, beat them. You can't fight with every ounce of your body if you do not have a clear mind. You'll hold yourself back. What do you know about real life? You've lived your life in the mountains. You couldn't have fought enough times in order to know what real battle is. Robin's eyes snapped open and glared at him. I have killed enough to know the difference between illusions and reality. I have killed enough to know what is the fine line that makes it possible to overcome your disabilities and win. When you have nothing holding you back, when you can fight and know the truth behind it all, that is when you truly win. Because you aren't blinded by fantasies is why you can push yourself beyond all possibilities. You know that you have no lies, nothing to hold you down. No nagging thought about how you should act to make those fantasies come true. You can surpass everything. Because you have fought your demons and won. That is when the mind can overpower the body. That is how you win when it seems as though you are tied or losing. Once you are able to banish your demons, face me. Then we shall truly see who is to win. Because it will be a true test of skill. Until then, you will never be able to stand against me. Robin left the boy to his thoughts as she moved closer to Yoko to speak with her. Robin dropped to the ground with a light thud. It had been several days since the incident at the mountains. She checked over her shoulder and turned to Yoko. What should we do now? Yoko sighed and rubbed her forehead. I do not know. This world is new to us. Tenchi dropped down next to Yoko. Yes, but perhaps Konoha is where we should go. It is the home of the Uzumaki. We would have lived there if it wasn't for Tashiko taking us and our parents to the Celia Mountains. Masaru nodded his head in agreement. Hi, Tenchi is right. That is the only place we have left to turn to. Yoko glared at the ground. I do not like it. We do not know this place. We don't know any place. Robin countered. Tashiko-sama made sure of that. The only place we even know of is Konoha and the Uzumaki estate. Hi! Tenchi agreed. Tashiko-sama made it that way. So we would return because that is where our family is. Robin sighed and nodded. I don't know why though. But enough about this. I'm getting hungry. She looked around as she put her naginata down. I'll go hunt some food. Tenchi rolled her eyes. Always the tomboy, always the girl. Robin retorted before she darted off. Masaru shook his head and turned towards Yukio as the large man came over to them. Yukio, how are you doing? Yukio smiled. Speed ain't my thing. Strength is. You know that. Masaru laughed lightly and nodded. He looked at Yoko. Yoko, isn't it time for you to change into something suitable? Yoko looked down at her clothes. The traditional Miko outfit was torn up and dirty. She sighed and nodded. Hi. She wandered away from them. Kakashi glanced over at the clay doll. She stood behind them staring off into space. Robin had left and she seemed to be the only one Setsuko would willingly talk to. Naruto sat away from everyone. The copycat ninja made his way over to the blonde. He quietly sat down and waited in silence. Kakashi-sensei. He looked at his student. I'm sorry. Kakashi's eye widened in surprise and confusion. What do you mean? Naruto sighed as he stared at the ground. When I first found out that Setsuko-chan loved you, I hated you. Because you could take her away. The boy sat up at the sky and continued before Kakashi could say anything. Then, I didn't want her to get hurt by you. I wanted to make sure she was safe. And guess what happens then? She disappears for a month. I was scared that she would be hunted down. After she came back, she died. I didn't want to think that she was dying. Tears lined his bright blue eyes. I wanted her to stay. Because she was the one just like me. She knew. She cared. She was my big sis. She understood it all and always wanted me to be happy. When I found out, I was mad at both you and her. I was mad at you because she liked you more. Because she chose you over me. And I was mad at her because she said she'd never leave. But she was leaving. I thought she lied. I hated her. I hated you. I hated everyone. Because once again I was alone. I never wanted to share her. I wanted her to be with me always. She was my sis. I loved her like it. I didn't want her to love you more. Naruto. Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder. It is possible for someone to love another the same amount as always and still love a new person. Setsuko. She didn't know what she was doing when she disappeared. Naruto wiped any tears away with the back of his hand. I know, but I miss her so much. I knew her just for a small time. But it felt like a lifetime. She was there for me. She understood better than anyone else. Kakashi nodded sadly. Yes, but unfortunately, Setsuko has always harbored a general hatred towards humans. The two turned to see the clay doll staring at them as she spoke. I feel this whenever I met someone new. Hatred grows rapidly whenever I met a human. It was amazing that the Setsuko you talk of was able to have these feelings towards you. I doubt that she would have been able to form these emotions towards others. And I cannot fathom how she was able to even like you, Kakashi. You are merely human, not at all like Naruto. It is odd that this would happen. She was hunted by humans at a young age and forced to become a killer. Kakashi stood up quickly. You said you didn't remember Setsuko's life. The woman merely stared at him. When Bensha and I are close, I will have fragments of her memories for a short time. Robin swung herself off of a tree branch and leapt into the air. She pulled her arm back and threw several kunai at the ground. The girl landed and jumped back while throwing more kunai. She landed on the ground and slid back a few feet while crouching. Robin looked up at the 2 rabbits she had just killed. She knelt down and pulled 2 knives out of her boots. She looked over her shoulder in surprise. Gaara stared at her. Yes. He didn't say anything for several minutes. You killed your mother too? Robin nodded slowly before turning her back to him. So what if I did? I was too young at the time. Besides, she already chose her fate. She just used me to accomplish her goal. So you hate her? Robin shrugged. I don't know her. She's just another faceless person that I have killed. How can I hate someone I don't know? Robin sighed and looked at the sky. But I do thank her for teaching me. She looked back at Gaara. Was that all you wanted? Gaara shook his head. No, I want to test my existence. Yoko slowly moved her hand into one of her sleeves and searched for something. After a few minutes, she pulled out a pouch. Carefully, she pulled off her robes and sat on the ground in her underwear. She pulled the pouch open and laid out small bundles of string. She looked through them all, checking what colors she had. Red, gold, yellow, a eggshell white, black, another red, green, blue, another black, another eggshell, another gold, orange, and another red. Yoko sighed as she dug into the pouch once more. She pulled out a thin metallic wire. Robin dodged a wave of sand. You fool! This is not the place. She jumped out of the way of more sand. This is a fight, not talking time. Robin rolled out of the way of sand and turned. Sand was come right at her. She didn't have the time to dodge, so she held her arms up on front of her as shield for her face. The sand slammed into her and threw her into the air. Robin coughed out a little blood before she felt her eyes harden. Her fist clenched as she spun in the air and landed perfectly on her feet. Robin stood to her full height. She performed a rapid series of seals. I will grant you the joy of seeing my favorite summon. It will be a glorious death for you. 2 strange white balls of light appeared, each one connected to one of her arms at the wrist. 2 large blades formed and were strapped to her wrists. The blades curved in slightly and each had a handle that she grabbed to control the blades better. Robin tightened her grip on the handles before charging. The sand came at her and Robin slashed it in half and continued running. She tackled Gaara only to be stopped by the sand. Robin slashed at it several times but nothing happened. Robin! Robin turned her head towards Tenshi. The older Uzumaki threw her away from the boy and turned to Gaara. Listen, kid. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I don't care. Just save your flirting till after Robin finishes. Robin dropped 5 large rabbits and 7 large fish onto the ground. Masaru smiled at her. You seem to have taken a while. HN was the only answer he got as the girl disappeared. Yukio came over and picked up the fish and rabbits. I'll fix it, he muttered before wandering off. Masaru rolled his eyes and sighed. What's wrong? He turned to see Yoko. She was red pants and a oriental top. It had long sleeves and it reached down past her, but as though it was a dress. The bottom half was red and ended at a gold line close to her armpits. The rest was an eggshell white. In between the 2 colors and on her heart was a yin-yang. The shirt was trimmed with a dull gold. She had black slip-on shoes. Her hair was pulled up in a ponytail and had a tight braid looped around that. The girl had a dark red panted onto her eyelids and even darker red lips. Things just seemed to move fast, that's all. Yoko sighed and nodded. Hi! She twitched her fingers slightly. Masaru looked at her curiously. Why are you doing that? Yoko shrugged. You'd leave a trail, so you can't do that as we move, and once Yukio is done we'll get going. Yoko sighed. I guess I just don't want to be caught off guard. Besides, this is the most I've ever had to practice on others. I just want to see what I can do. Masaru sighed and shook his head. I'll never understand women. Yoko smirked. And Tenchi? Masaru only sent a dry glare towards her. They moved the next few days without stopping unless they were going to rest for a short time or eat. Gaara and Robin seemed to be at each other's throats the entire time, and Naruto spent a lot of time with Hinata along the way. Robin had spoken to the pale girl after she woke and later announced that she and Hinata would train together from now on. Tenchi had only laughed and patted the girl's head, saying that little tomboys were funny. Yoko seemed to always twitch her fingers when they rest. It was until the third day into their journey back that they learned the reasons. Kyuso, Naruto yelled as a kunai cut off some of his hair. A ninja from Sound had seen them and attacked. The branch family merely held the others back as Yoko smirked. Naruto-sama, please stay back. She started moving her fingers quickly. What is she doing? Sakura asked Masaru. The older man laughed. Well, Yoko had a reason for twitching while we've been traveling. Yoko moved her hands around, and it was then that they realized something was attached to her fingers. String. She smirked before she moved her fingers again. The Sound ninja hung in the air, dead with his mouth and eyes sewn shut. Blood dripped from small cuts all over. She has been weaving string around the areas in case something like this happened. The woman turned back to the others. How far until we reach Konoha? Akira was silent for a moment before speaking. There is a large group of people northeast from here, might be about half a day's walk. Yoko nodded. Then we run. She took off run. Robin turned to the others' questioning looks. Because Akira is blind, his other senses are amazingly strong. He knows where people are within a certain distance. Yoko waited as Kakashi explained to the Konoha guards that they weren't going to be a problem. She turned to Robin. You have revealed many secrets to these people, Robin. Care to tell me why? Robin was silent for a moment before speaking. Tashiko-sama spoke to me about this when we made the clay doll. She told me to watch over Setsuko until her soul is returned. She also said that in order to do so, I cannot keep many secrets from them. Yoko looked annoyed as she turned her head towards the shinobi. Humph, I sense many things from them. I do not trust them. Something is wrong about many of them. Really? Which ones? Robin seemed interested as Yoko only smirked. You may not be bothered by telling your secrets, but I do feel bothered when I tip my hand to all. Robin smiled. I see. So you're worried about Setsuko-chan too? Yoko blinked as she looked at Robin before rolling her eyes. I hate it when you aren't serious. Like a little kid. If you hadn't noticed, I'm 13. I'm allowed to be like this. Robin deadpanned and Yoko rolled her eyes once more. The second your duties of protecting Setsuko-sama is over, this is what it is going to be like, isn't it? Robin shrugged as she glanced at Setsuko. Her face hardened as she turned back into the distant Uzumaki known as the emotionless executor. When it comes to my duties, I will never allow myself to be off guard or fail. It is the way things are. As a ninja, I must not allow anything to interfere with the mission. If I see something or someone that may be considered a threat, I must eliminate them. I cannot be a young child but a warrior during my missions. If I have no duties to fulfill as a ninja, then I will be a young girl. That is how things are. Yoko Gentle placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. I don't think Niji was a threat to Setsuko. Robin glared into space. I felt offended that someone would treat those that they are to protect with such disgrace. Those who fail at being a true ninja are considered a threat to me. Yoko sighed as she pulled her hand back. I see. No more words could be spoken because Kakashi had come back. They could go see the Hokage now, all of them. The Uzumaki entered the woman's office on edge along with several ANBU. They were not happy about Robin and Masaru carrying their weapons. Akira had also refused to part with his bow and arrows. Yoko had simply moved the ANBU to the side with her string and marched forward. Tsunade and Jiraiya looked up at them all surprised. Who are you? Robin glanced at the clay doll who hid behind Yukio. Yoko was introducing them when Setsuko stepped out from behind the huge man. Tsunade stared wide-eyed at them. Setsuko? They brought you back. The Hokage smiled as she slowly stood up. Tsunade, don't. She's not human. Robin looked at him surprised. Not many people were able to tell the difference. No one in a single glance. Tenchi stepped forward to try and keep things calm. Listen, it has been a tiresome journey. Perhaps it would be best if we just have some tea and relax. The men should probably leave too. That way there won't be too many embracing situations with what we have to show you. Nanny? Naruto yelled. Why do you get to stay and we get kicked out? Tenchi rubbed her forehead. Well, Setsuko might have to take her clothes off, so it would be easier if just us girls stay. I know that Robin, Tsunade, Yoko, and I won't mind. If some of the other girls don't mind, they can stay. Why are you staying? Jiraiya demanded. Tenchi looked at him a little confused. What do you mean, what's wrong with me staying? Jiraiya glared at her as he announced a huge secret of hers. Because you're a guy. End flashback. Robin stared at the man. Everyone but the Branch family and Jiraiya stared at Tenchi in shock and disbelief. Tenchi was bright red and had looked away, embraced and quite flustered. Yoko sighed and shook her head. No one has been able to discover that without being told. Robin commented quietly. You are indeed something else. Tell me, how did you know Setsuko was not a human and Tenchi was male? Jiraiya smirked. The proportions are all wrong. Setsuko has a smaller waist by 4 inches, slimmer legs and arms, and her breasts are 3 inches bigger, and her butt is 2 bigger. And the crossdresser has no feminine aura. I feel nothing when I look at him, Jiraiya announced. Naruto gaped at Jiraiya for looking at his cousin like that. Kakashi felt his eyebrow twitch as he glared at the man. Yoko stared at him in horror. Tenchi was close to tears. Tsunade was about to strangle Jiraiya. The old pervert stood tall, proud he knew such things, and the rest were either in shock or disgust. Robin, however, sighed and shook her head. He was something else, all right. He was a super pervert in a class of his own. Wow, betcha didn't see that one coming. Robin looked back to Tsunade as everyone else stared at Jiraiya or Tenchi. Hokage-sama, perhaps I should explain things. We are the Uzumaki branch family. Tashiko-sama, a power Miko, had the power to see the future. She used this power to help plan for this event. I am Uzumaki Robin. My duty is to guard the Setsuko you see right now. Robin glanced at Setsuko to make sure that the clay doll did not seem bothered. Perhaps it is best if I give you this. Tashiko-sama wrote this for you before she died. Robin held out a scroll. Yoko stared at her in surprise and confusion. Robin. Robin didn't glance at her as she explained. Tashiko-sama knew that I would be the one to carry it. I would guard it with everything I had. It was the best choice. Robin moved over to Setsuko. We will be walking around this village. It is best I know it before I go home. She led the clay doll away. At the door, Robin turned back to the others. I would like to become a genin once things have settled. Robin left with Setsuko. Yoko turned back to Tsunade as the Hokage read the scroll. Tenchi glared at Jiraiya. What, you're the one dressed like a woman? Tenchi turned away with her nose in the air. I may have the body of a man, but I have the soul of a woman. Yoko sighed and nodded. Hi, it's true. Ino turned to her with wide eyes. What do you mean? I'm a Miko. It's my job to know these things. Robin. The girl turned to Setsuko. Hi, why do you want to be a genin? Robin smiled gently at her. Because I am a ninja. I was taught to be one. It is true that I might not have the same teachings as others, but I fight as a ninja. Now, I wish to fight under the leaf, as other Uzumaki shinobi have in the past. I want to stand with them. Is that your goal? Robin shook her head. My goal in life is to find a way to protect all those precious to me. I don't want them to be hurt or sad ever. Why? Because that would make me sad. Robin beamed. I see. Before any more words could be spoken, a ball flew towards Setsuko. Robin slashed the ball in half with a blade and moved into a fighting stance. The children, who had accidentally kicked it in their direction, were in shock from what just happened. A boy with a blue scarf and goggles on his head had a huge grin. Wow, cool move. Can you show me it? Robin, sensing no danger, returned her blades back into her boots. Who are you? She asked in a distant tone. She wasn't looking at the boy, She was looking at the man behind him. You are a ninja? What are you doing in Setsuko? Irika yelled in shock. Setsuko shook her head. I contain her soul, but I am not her. Robin stood in front of Setsuko and glared. Tell me, you let these children play so wildly? Listen, I'm their teacher and they had recess. Now, show me your passports and why you are here. Robin looked at Irika for a moment before sighing and shaking her head. I have no passport. I have lived away from the world too long to know that it was required. Perhaps I should speak to Naruto-sama about this. She muttered the last part to herself, but Irika caught it. You know Naruto? How? Robin looked up at him surprised and blinked. Eh? Oh, Naruto. He is a member of the Uzumaki head family. I am of the branch. I don't know exactly how we are related, but I think we're cousins twice removed. Robin turned her attention to the three children staring up at her with stars. You know, boss. Wow. And you're fast and cool ninja. You've got to teach us something. The little girl yelled. Robin blinked and then realized that other kids were drifting towards them. I must attend to my dash. She didn't get a chance to finish. The kids all piled onto in excitement. Robin yelled out for help as she was buried under the kids. I believe this is the first encounter with young children Robin has ever truly had. Setsuko remained distant as she voiced her thoughts. Kakashi waited silently as Tsunade finished reading the scroll. Kakashi. Her voice startled a few and drew attention away from Tenchi. Uzumaki Tashiko has written that you would know about Bensha. She told you? Kakashi nodded. Everyone wanted to know. From what I was told, Bensha has been around for a long time. Tashiko-san told me about everything we will need to know. Please tell us. Tsunade asked quietly and Kakashi nodded. Hi. I should start with Bensha and her connection with the wind. Apparently, in the beginning of time, the wind developed its own mind. Tashiko-san didn't say how though. From what she said, the wind wanted to experience the world more than it could already. So it broke off a piece of its mind and slowly pushed energy into it, causing a creature to be born. That was Bensha. Bensha was a name given to it because it could hear the wind. It was believed that the wind knew everything, and when Bensha used its connection to the wind to its fullest, Bensha could even see into the future. Since Bensha was from the wind itself, it knew many powerful secrets and learned and harnessed many different powers. It was considered to be one of the most powerful demons around. But then, for some strange reason, Bensha disappeared. Even Tashiko-san didn't know what happened. Tashiko-san also told me about why Akayuki attacked Setsuko's birthplace and what has happened. Apparently, Akayuki was the Uendo Bensha for many reasons. It seems that over the centuries the Uendo Bensha had slowly started to become smaller and more human-like. They bowed down to the wind no matter what the wind asked. In this sense, the Uendo Bensha became an insult. They were weak-willed and never seemed to live long. Akayuki was abandoned in the forest and found by the wolf god. She was raised by the wolf and taught some of its techniques, such as Setsuko's ability to use her blood as a weapon. The wind then told Akayuki to go to where Setsuko would be born. It seemed that the wind wanted someone who wouldn't bow down to it, who would not follow it blindly. It chose Setsuko because she was about to born and she was Uzumaki. The highest form of the Uzumaki blood limit allows them to have the ability to absorb and adjust to any chakra inside of them. Demons don't really have the kind of souls humans do. Their morals and wills are completely different. Demons seem to be power-hungry and violent. The wind wanted someone who wouldn't bow down to it, who wouldn't even know about it till a later time. So it chose to have the Uendo Bensha become human. It wanted someone with the human resentfulness of giving up. When Setsuko was given the cursed seal, her body was, in a sense, killing itself. It was a chain reaction of her demonic healing abilities. The only way the seal would leave was if she was dead. But it seems like the wind could not get another suitable human host for a while and brought out Bensha. Bensha took over her body as a way to preserve Setsuko's body. But I thought Bensha was dead. Sakura trailed off, slightly confused. Kakashi shook his head. That's the weird part. Tashiko-san said that Bensha never really died. Only sealed itself inside of its powers to wait until it would return. It seems that this resurrection was premature. Bensha pressed her hand against her shoulder as she thought things over. The wind had said yes to the old woman. The wind said no to the masked man. The wind said no to the people with the masked man. It made not sense. Why did it plan for things this way? Shouldn't she, Bensha, know such things? Was she not the demon who once ruled the world with an ironclad fist? Was she not a demon who was once feared by every demon and human alike? Yet she was not allowed to know her parents' reasons? She was not allowed to know her own reasons? This made no sense. She was standing on top of a huge tree in a vast forest that went as far as the eye could see. A grim look passed over her face as she knew the words Kakashi was speaking. She knew what he would say next. She opened her mouth and began to recite most of the words with him over the long distance. 320,000 years ago, I sank into the darkness. My spirit burst forth into the wind. My power resides within the depths of my successors. I wait for the moment I can wake with new life. I wait for the wind to whisper my time. My rest has been disturbed too soon. Now I hunt the one who thought they could summon Bensha. That's it for today. I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to check out author of the story. Details in description.